Go right ahead, fellas.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
All right.
masculinity, we all agree that is needed, right? When we
Hmm.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you there at first. What'd you
okay,
say?
masculinity, we all agree that it's needed.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
my question, the follow-up question was: aside from lack of accountability, um, what else would you say contributes to this toxic masculinity?
And I said misogyny.
Right.
And I said that because there are there are things that men can say that are totally that don't have to do with a lot of, I don't want to say don't have to do with like masculinity, but like have to
Mm,
do with like, okay, it has to do with toxic traits
mm,
within uh masculinity. Like I don't want to say that, oh, because I'm the man, I'm better than my wife. Or just because I'm the man, I have to do this, I have to do that.
mm,
Like I want to say that uh like I especially want to say that like like with my partner, whoever I marry, I want to say that we put in 100 100. And I say that because there may be things that I lack that she's good at, or there may be things that she's good at that lack in.
mm,
Like if that makes sense. And
mm,
I just want that to be like our dynamic.
mm,
Like, hey, our child did something bad. Hey, you need to go talk to our child because and let them know that, hey, you did this wrong thing, but here's the reason that this is wrong, and you need to understand why you shouldn't do this again. Like it's
Yeah.
important to let them know why the thing is wrong, not to just say that, hey, this is wrong and you shouldn't have done this.
mm.
So where
Would you
does
say,
the
Stephen?
misogyny come in there though? Because
Mm-hmm,
the way that I want to view this, right,
mm-hmm,
Hmm.
is let's identify our terms.
Hmm.
Because if we don't identify our terms, we might all be talking about something completely
right,
different.
right.
So let's take a look at the word toxic. What does toxic mean in this case? Toxic means a behavior that is less than desirable and usually has negative effects.
Hmm.
Would that be acceptable to everybody here?
But see,
Yes.
Okay.
but that, you know what, Steve? That's why I asked that too. When you said the negative effects, that makes me think outcome, right?
Yeah.
And that outcome has more to do with how a person responds, not exactly what's happening to them. Meaning,
Right.
if
Yeah.
you, right, like you can say
Yeah.
something assertively, a person can respond, in a certain way, and someone can label that,
Right. I'm not
like,
responsible for your behavior, but I am responsible for the way that I interpret it.
um,
Right.
so when you mentioned outcome, Stephen, like what? That's the definite. That's the Webster. That's the definition of toxicity, right?
Right. Right.
So who's the ownership of that? Is that on the person? On
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at here
yeah.
is that when we say something is toxic masculinity,
Mm-hmm,
right? It's because they're trying to acknowledge that a behavior that we did is affecting someone else in a negative aspect,
mm-hmm,
when what we're not discussing is the reason why it is occurring in the first place,
mm-hmm,
right? So let's put it into these terms, like it's considered toxic masculinity to be overly aggressive.
Hmm.
Why? Where men are taught from birth to be aggressive. We're taught sports. We're taught, all of our games as children, as boys, were based off of war, battle, fighting, right? That's how we were taught.
yeah.
We were taught to be overly aggressive,
Right.
like
Guilty.
for all time.
I'm
Right.
You know
guilty.
what I mean? Right. So when we get
Yeah.
into adulthood, now all of a sudden we're told that that's not okay. Well, which one
Mm,
is it?
right.
Okay, so when we look at things, we can look at let's take sexual assault for example. Is that toxic masculinity when a man performs it on a woman, or is it you're doing something wrong in the first place that shouldn't happen? I find it hard to believe
Mm,
that that is a toxic behavior when it's a blatantly wrong behavior. Period.
Hmm.
Right, but we add on top of that a label that doesn't need to be there.
right.
Right.
Does that make sense? So
Makes perfect sense. Yeah. Makes
the
sense.
reason why I'm going down this pathway is because I don't think there's I don't think there's toxic masculinity. I don't think there's toxic femininity. I believe that there's toxic behavior.
Okay.
Mm.
That makes sense.
Right. So because we can look at almost all things, right? There's my wife asked me a long time ago, what's the difference between men and women? Well, when you get down to the nuts and bolts of it, not much. We share the same traits across the board almost entirely. We both have the same level of patience. We have the same level of openness on as an average, right?
Mhm.
All the traits that we carry as men carry over into females as well, and everywhere in between. Let's say, we'll just bring into the argument here. Trans folks share the same traits as other trans folk, and trans folks share those traits with us. These are broad, universal traits that we all share.
Interesting.
But
yeah.
no one is safe from these traits.
Right.
We all do them. So instead, and this is what I talk about a lot, is instead of blaming the person, you blame the behavior. The behavior is the core problem of the issue, not the person. The person is a human being reacting to and responding to a stimuli, either past, present, or current, right?
Mhm.
So
Does
Yeah,
that
go
go
ahead.
in line? Does that go in line with who you are and what you do are two totally different things?
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
because
Okay.
people are not inherently bad, but we do bad things.
Right.
You can be a good person and do a bad thing, or you
Mhm.
can be a bad person and do a good thing.
Right.
Alexander Solzhenitsyn spoke to this really, really clearly in the Gulag Archipelago, where he said, gradually it was disclosed to me that the line between good and evil passes not through states, not through policies, but through the heart of every human being.
Hmm.
And in one small corner of evil stands a bridgehead of good. And I can't remember the other part of that phrase, but it basically says in the heart of good stands a landmark of evil as well. Like
Mhm.
this is something that is clearly correct. We've seen women do evil things. We've seen men do evil things. We've seen them do good things, and we've seen men do good things. So to me, I attach toxicity to the behavior, not to the individual.
Mhm.
So
Another
do you-
thing about it is, are you here to argue or are you here to find solutions?
Mhm. Mhm.
Right.
Because there's a big difference between that. And yeah, we can argue, we can have a discussion. We don't have to argue. We can have a discussion like we are here, to where we're exchanging ideas, we're trying to see where each other is coming from, and from that we can find a solution. Or we could
I-
argue to where we're just yelling at each other, and not there's no sign of solution in sight, to where we just yell and we're not listening to each other.
Yeah.
We're literally just listening to each other talk.
Mhm.
Well, the I can't remember who said it, but someone once said that the mark of a educated mind is one who can hold two competing different ideas in their head at the same time.
Hmm.
So the more you read, the more you understand that perspective is not just one, right?
Right.
Perspective, I think, if you look at if you look at the history of the word, I can't remember the word for that word all of a sudden. But if you no, it's the oh man, it's the history of where a word gets its meaning. I want to say the what?
Is it the etymology of a word?
Etymology. Thank you. I
Mhm.
keep wanting to say etymology, which is the study of ants.
And-
Right? Entomology. Yeah.
Right.
So etymology. So if you look at the etymology of perception, it requires more than one, right?
Mhm.
And so
Can you check your email, please?
yeah, I'll check my email.
Oh.
But
I
yeah,
think
go on.
No. And it's so interesting that you mentioned there on a previous panel, there were a couple of people who mentioned relationships. They mentioned marriage and what it takes to maintain one, to get into one, to be successful in one. We understand divorce, we understand marriage, but I think the first part about marriage that I think collectively, as a culture or as a nation or as a people, that we must understand too, is that it is an institution, right?
Mhm.
And when do you feel? Because Steve, you're married, right? Or
Yeah.
right? And David, you're not married, correct?
No, I'm not.
I'm married. Um, when it comes to your masculinity in a marriage or in a relationship, let's just say in a relationship, right? Is it equal? Is it equal in a relationship as it relates to you living in your masculinity? Do you feel like you have to ever put it to the side? And if so, why?
My wife embraces my masculinity and supports it. Like she makes me, I don't know how to put this. She embraces it in such a way that she makes me, oh man, how do you say that?
Vulnerability.
No. She embraces my masculinity and the positive benefits that come with it.
Okay.
She teaches me how she needs to be loved
Mm.
and how she wants that masculinity to be translated through that. Right. So she wants and needs a manly man who can hold her tight, who can protect her, who can defend her, who can keep her safe, keep her home safe. Right. She wants to be treated like a lady. And to be treated like a lady, you need to be a man. Right. In our relationship.
Yeah, definitely.
It'd be wildly different for gay folk or whoever, but this is for my relationship. She asked me to be a man to match her level of her wanting to be treated like a lady.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, for David,
Mm-hmm.
you agree? Similar in your relationships as well?
I do agree.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think there is give and take to where you can, like, yes, I want to feel like you can make me feel like a man in the actions that you take, but also there are times to maybe where I don't always want to feel like I have to be the man. And I think, how do I say? I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but like I don't always want to. Okay, I don't always want to be on guard.
On guard.
Yeah, like I don't always want to have to feel like I have to. I'm not sure if that's the right thing to say. I don't always want to feel like I have to protect my partner, if that's the right way to say that.
That's something we gotta definitely explore. I mean, because I really want you to go dive deep on that, because I think, and the reason I asked that is because when somebody mentioned that, when you look at suicide, when you even look at the lethality of the suicide, men lead that in our country. And when you look at the reasons for suicide, we see relationships.
It's every country, by the way. Every country.
Okay, right. Every country. And
Lithuania at the highest.
And we see relationships and relationship building, to be one of the problems there, right? And so I'm assuming, I'm not going to assume, but it's interesting that when I speak to young men, when I speak to any man, and they're having trouble in their relationship and things of that nature, I notice that we oftentimes get hung up on roles versus values. And I've always said that relationships and marriage, like me and my wife, we're equal in value, but we're different in roles. And
would it be roles and responsibilities?
Roles and responsibilities, the roles that we, since we were young, grow up thinking, okay, for instance, you mentioned the provide and protect thing, right? Very traditional. It's a very traditional, and most women will argue, they will say, yes, I want someone that provides and protects. Very traditional role. But we have a modern perspective on relationships now. We hear a lot about partnership. And I really wanted to keep that word in relationships because me and my wife, I mean, I think it is a partnership, you know, but when I look at the roles that we do, totally different. But the value he brings, you know, like if we're a car and I'm the steering wheel and the gas pedal, she's the mirrors, she's the headlights, you know, I really can't go anywhere, you know, without her. I mean, her guidance too, you know, but the roles are so different. But there's certain roles that get more attention. They just so happen to be masculine in nature.
Right.
But they definitely get more attention than her roles. Sometimes, you know, or whatever. At least from society, the way society looks at it. Okay. Right. We're seeing a big shift in the military. We're seeing more women heads as far as in the military and their spouse home with the kids. All right. As it relates to masculinity and that masculinity being viewed as good to the world and you know acceptance, what do we have to do to accept different roles that's non-traditional and maintain the level of masculinity that's still respected by both women, men, don't matter, right?
So you're hitting on something that I want to talk about after you're done. Definitely.
Yeah, that's my question for y'all. Like, where?
Okay.
How do we? Or where do we?
May I go first?
Yeah, go ahead, David. Go ahead.
I think especially as I'm getting older and as society is moving on, I think gender roles are becoming a thing of the past. Like I can say, "Oh, hey, baby, do you want to or maybe what am I saying? Like maybe I'm afraid of spiders and my lady, she's not afraid of spiders. And I ask her to come to the bathroom to kill this spider. And then she does it and I say, "Thank you, baby. I really appreciate it." And she says, "No problem. Ask anytime." And I just say, "Thank you." And then maybe I open the door for her and she just says, "Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that." And it's just certain thing. Like, I guess what I'm saying is, like, as much as I'm saying gender roles are a thing of the past, maybe gender, like, I don't think they're, what am I saying? Like, there don't have to be gender roles, is what I'm saying, I think. And the fact that we're still putting it on society, I think that's detrimental to it. You know what I mean?
They don't have to. We don't have to have gender roles. Am I hearing like we don't have to have gender roles to be successful? Like,
yes.
In a relationship?
Yes.
Steve, what do you think? You believe that, or you?
I'm only capable of disagreeing with what I know. And so I would say that I would disagree with that on the aspect of this. So in his book, The Myth of Male Power, Warren Farrell explains in a really great way that what happened was before 1900s, roughly, we lived basically in just complete survival mode, right? Okay. You had to have two distinct gender roles, right? The wife's responsibility was, fixing dinner, taking care of the kids because she was the only one that could breastfeed, right? She was more attuned to taking care of the children. The man was out plowing the fields, fixing the fence, going to war, fighting battles, right? That was his responsibility. Now the problem is when we move into the 1900s, right, and we start seeing the women's movement, we start to shift society into stage 2 relationships. So before it was stage 1, are you a good wife? Are you good to the kids? For a man, it's like, can you provide? Can you protect? Right? Now we move into stage 2, which is more emotionally based. The reason why we're able to do that is because we don't have to fight for our food anymore.
Right.
right? We've got longer food, food can sit longer. We've got canning, right? We've also got other things like later on in the 1900s, we've got birth control, right? So women have more control over their reproductive abilities.
Mhm.
We're starting to see them more. That means they're able to focus more on relationship issues. Like, I want a guy who can be emotionally available with me. It's no longer about having to fight, work, and plow the fields for 8, 10, 12, 16 hours a day,
Mhm.
right? We actually have way more time available to us today than we ever have anywhere, anytime in history,
Mhm.
right? The problem with this is that we didn't drag men in from stage one relationships. We reinforced it. We carried on with the tradition of provide and protect. And men didn't make that move into stage two relationships, right? Because we were
Okay.
so focused on women and their rights, which is good, right? They deserve everything they've got,
Mhm.
right? But we didn't bring men with them. We didn't say, okay, we're moving into these relationships where you need to be more present, right? You need to be more emotionally present,
Mhm.
right? And so we see this shift happening where we've got women in stage two relationships and men in stage one relationships, and that rift continues to grow further and further as we reinforce the old gender binaries, such where provide and protect is the name of the game, right?
Mhm.
Well, now I would say my job has now become protect and nourish, right?
Mm.
You see that difference, because nourish can mean a lot of things.
Right.
Nourish means I'm responsible for the emotional well-being of my family and my partner, right?
Mhm.
Means that I need to be able to nourish those deep parts of the relationship that need attention, right? So now I'm pulling myself into the stage two relationship that I want to be in to be successful. That would be my opinion on that process. I hope I made sense.
No, that was definitely a good one. David, you want to?
I agree, and I like when I have these thoughts, I'm just trying to I'm trying to flesh them out as I'm thinking about them. So
No, that's
I-
good. That's good. That's what we're here for.
right,
Exactly.
I'm trying to as I'm trying to flesh them out, I'm trying to think about them in the correct sense, so that once I get to a solution or maybe an impasse, someone else can chime in and talk me through it.
Mhm.
I'll
Just
be
like
right
how
back, guys.
I'm gonna hit pause on that, and I'm just curious. Do you like the way Steve explained that? I have to say, I I just wholeheartedly agree with that, and I like the way he broke that down. Protect and nourish is a great way to explain what is needed in today's relationship from both women and men. Do you think gender roles are necessary? I'm curious about that as well. And anybody is welcome to jump up on the panel as long as you have something, meaningful to say on this particular subject matter as we review this. Um, Much love to Carla and Daniel. Thank you so much for dropping by, family. I'm gonna get back to it. Let me know your thoughts. Take the poll question and hit that like button, family.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's huge. I think our development as we try to continue to create these spaces for men of all ages to come and understand from an emotional standpoint where they matter.
Mhm.
And I think Coach said it better when said it best when she said, we're more than a paycheck. We're more than
a protector, a
yeah,
provider.
right. Even though those values are still needed
Mhm.
in our society, um, we when they talk about bringing more to the table, and guys not being insecure about their masculinity, because again, we use this term toxic, and we take it and go And we look at toxicity and we have a difficult time, I think, as men, understanding where's our value now in relationships, in society. You know, we've civilized this. I think we've civilized our society very, very well, you know, and for that, and to Steve's point, where, you know, we used to have that identity of going to go fight wars and go plow the land and all these kind of things, and we don't have that anymore, not to that degree, if you will. What now? You know, have we evolved or are we stumped? You know, we're still trying to find coal mines and fields to work in or something, you know, just to feel that level of being needed, right?
Right.
And so it sounds like we're now being needed more for our emotional management.
Right. And
Then-
I think that's totally fine.
Yeah. You
But at the same time, we need to do, like, with that, we need to do work within ourselves to be that emotional, to be emotionally available, and not
Yeah.
not just shut things down. Like
Mhm.
if my partner asks me, hey, I need to talk about what happened at work today, and and maybe she's talking and you're not listening, and you're just saying, oh, okay, yeah, but you're not, like, yes, she needs to, not only does she need to talk, but she needs you to listen so that you can chime in on and understand why she feels the way she feels.
Can I address that?
Mhm.
I think that's a great perspective that you're onto there, David. I think it's really great. And I think, you know, some people have heard this, some people haven't, but I'll say it here because it begs to be mentioned.
Right.
And this is something that I had to learn too, is that when we're focused on fixing the problem, we're not hearing the problem. Now that sounds counterintuitive, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But if we're so focused on fixing the problem, we're not hearing the feeling. That's the problem. So what I do when I have a conversation with my wife, and like yesterday, she was really stressed out. She had a really bad day. I asked, is this a will you help me fix it problem, or is this will you listen to my problem?
Right.
Right. So is it listen versus fix? Because if it's listen, I know my job. I know what my responsibility is. My responsibility is to listen, to comfort, to nourish. Right. That's that nourish part of my relationship now. But if she's like, I know I need this problem fixed, be like, that's what I do. Then I can, you know,
Right.
I can get to going on fixing it, and I don't got to worry about nothing else. Right.
Yeah.
But the fact that I can switch between those two perspectives is me coming into stage 2 relationship, or into that stage 2 relationship where I have that emotional availability that my wife desires.
And I see that excitement you pull when it was time to fix something, right?
Right. It's easy. It's easy.
And is that a testament to not only you coming into the future, but also the other one is uncomfortable to the point where, are you more humble in the listening part than the fix it part? The fix it part, does this assertiveness, does this aggressiveness, does this authoritative part come out? Like identity?
So,
yeah.
No, it's a light switch. Only the difference is it's not on and off. It's different. It's different roles.
Red
different
light,
masks.
green light. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Or is
so
it comfortability with being uncomfortable?
I mean, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that, but I know that I am comfortable having deep emotional conversations with my partner. Not a problem. As a matter of fact, I get turned on far more when I have deep conversations with my wife. I'm ready to take her right now. You know what I mean? Like that deep conversation breeds an intimacy in me that I cannot control. So I don't feel uncomfortable talking about conversations. Now I will feel uncomfortable talking about my feelings. Absolutely. Because I was socialized to do that. Now
you mean uncomfortable with your spouse or uncomfortable to anybody?
I'm uncomfortable with anybody knowing what I'm feeling.
Got it.
Right. But through therapy, through time and trial and effort, I'm starting to learn that I need to I need to be able to be emotionally available and even to some degree emotionally vulnerable with the people in my life. So I can have a conversation with my wife about deeply feeling things, right? I can do that. But to me, one of the very few things that I think is distinguishing between men and women is that men love fixing stuff. Like that's our thing. It makes us feel useful. We feel like we're being useful to our family. We feel like we're conquering problems. We're getting stuff done for my wife or my family. Like I feel important.
Right.
Right. I don't feel necessarily important or useful when I'm listening to my wife's feelings, but I do feel important and useful when I'm fixing the problem. The difference is when I'm listening to my wife and her issues, it's not that I need to feel useful. Now it's I need to feel like I'm being a part of a relationship that matters. So it changes the switch. It's not on and off. It's changing hats. I'm putting one hat on and taking the other one off.
And you're
And
sort of
both of them are equally valuable.
and you're sort of responsible for her response to that problem in the future, or if she, come home with a stressful day and she's like, man, let me share this with you. I love the idea of, all right, are you telling me with the intent for me to fix or to understand, or just listen,
Right.
because I'm inclined to believe if she just wants you to listen, she actually already knows what to do. She just wants to make
Right.
sure, like,
Right.
what I'm about to go in there and do tomorrow, you okay
Right.
with it, right? It ain't gonna
Right,
you're not gonna
right.
be
Yeah.
shocked, like, why didn't you come to me first? Like,
Well, and
but that's
making
good.
sure that you identify that too is really important because there's been times where we're having a conversation and I didn't get the chance to ask that question. Right. So halfway through, I can notice her getting a little bit more frustrated than normal. And I'm like, I didn't ask the question. Then I stop and I'm like, hey, sweetheart, is this a fix it question or is this a fix it conversation or a listen to it conversation? And at that point, she'll be like, kind of both, or she'll say this or that. But then I immediately know what gear I'm supposed to be in. Because until then, I'm hitting, fifth gear trying to fix it. And then I realize that that's not my role for this conversation. My role is to be loving, caring, emotionally available husband.
Right.
So is there any benefit to being emotionally unavailable? Does it serve any good benefit to society, to people, to works, to different works, if you will, to you name it, across the board? Because we have to ask that question, then why did it exist? There's a reason. It served a purpose in the past. What was that purpose? Because whatever that purpose was got us to this point today. So that means it
had a value.
It had a value because we're now, again, more civilized. We have a lot of things happening in society where, more inclusion.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Is we're more civilized. So if we're going, if you like, if all three of us, right, let's say that we lived in a community somewhere nice. well, let's just imagine this. Yeah. We all live in an area, 1800s, right? We're all free men. We live in a much better country than the U.S. was at that time, right? But somebody is coming to threaten us, right? We all three of us, we have to go do battle. I can do a better job of fighting when I don't have to care about you.
Yeah, that's true.
I cannot get emotionally attached to you.
Right.
That would that and from military service, like that endangers our ability to get the objective done. So up until the 1900s, we had a vested interest not to get to know each other. Because we didn't know if we were going to die. We didn't know if we were going to see you next week after this last battle. We didn't know. And it saves us and our feelings when I don't have to mourn you.
Yeah.
Right.
So of course it was normal. Of course it was valuable because it pushed humanity through 400,000 years of warfare, famine, and destitution. It's not where we live now. Right. We don't live in that society. We don't have to defend our country constantly 24/7. We can go to the store, pick up food off of the shelf. It'll last us 5 weeks to a year, right? We don't have to fight and struggle anymore. So what are we doing? Well, we need to be focusing on ourselves and how we can make our lives better interpersonally.
Yeah, that's a lot to take in, for, when you think of a man raising his family and raising them with certain values that he was taught and values that his father was taught and his grandfather was taught, and here we are today in 2022, and we're like, we have to now change. Some people are saying, hey, you gotta break those curses.
Right.
Whereas at one point in time, those curses not only saved lives, but steered us into a direction of civilization that,
Right.
people today we won't even last back then. I don't think we would even.
We would start before we get to the fight.
I think from a different perspective, like being emotionally jaded, I think it's a recipe for implosion, and it's a like, because if that's the way I am, and maybe I don't speak to anybody about it, I don't even express it, to the point of where I become emotionally numb, and it just eats me up inside until maybe it'll all come out at one point. And at that point, I think it'll be extremely detrimental to myself and to whoever I choose to express that emotion on.
Yeah.
Like,
and they gotta be emotionally mature enough too.
right.
Just
I
so
want
you
to
can
bring
feel
this up.
Yeah.
Look at this is really great example of why listening is so good. Listening is fixing in many cases for women because her emotional status
Big up,
was broken in
Cece.
that
Thank you
time.
for coming.
I
This
love
is an
that
open
you
panel, so you're
brought that
welcome
up,
to
uncharted
come
territories, because that
chat
is a
and give
brilliant
your
explanation of
commentary
why it's important
on this review that I'm
I
doing.
like
to
that she
distinguish between those two.
I
Love
like that
that.
she put broken in quotations.
Right,
She's letting us
right.
know this is only temporary.
I think
Right.
I think she put it there because there are many words for that.
Yeah.
Like, you could be broken, you could be jaded,
But
you
we
could
all
be
understand it.
right.
We
You could
understand
be
it, yeah.
emotionally unavailable.
Mhm.
Like, I just
Right.
think that's the way that there are just different ways to speak about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it takes me back to one of the groups I was holding with these guys, and like I said, all these guys are military, right? So they've given their lives for a significant amount of time, and their perspectives are so different because in the military we still have this notion of provide and protect.
Mhm.
We still have this this willingness to want to go out there and protect our fellow men that's
Mhm.
next to us, for the betterment of whatever mission that is that we have to accomplish, right? And
Right.
that emotional compartmentalization is really key, I guess, when it comes down to it, because again, what
Right.
is acceptable overseas may not be acceptable in the States, and what's acceptable on a military installation may not be acceptable in a in the civilian sector, right?
Right,
So
because in one sense it could be life or death, and in another sense it could just be, okay, we're not going here to eat, we're going somewhere else to eat.
and the thing about it is like that turn on and turn off. That's the part I think that's what we're seeing men struggle with. When I watch YouTube channels and I see guys going, and I can see the passion on them, and I can see them going in like, no, I'm a man. You're not about to tell me that I have to change something that comes natural to me, right?
Right.
And we have to agree that it's men and women saying this, right? That hey, we need to evolve in some
Right.
certain ways, right? But then we have certain jobs, like I ran off the top 5 professions where
Still
they
tripping
need-
about that.
Yeah.
Still tripping about that.
Yeah,
they need you to be unempathetic. And honestly, I mean, you can call it healthy narcissism, but when I saw surgeon in there, I was thinking like, wow, if you're going to open up my chest cavity, I do need you to be a little narcissistic.
Right.
Just a little bit.
Right.
But
Well, and the problem too is that when we look at what you're exempling right there is you know, one of the problems, the misrepresentations of masculinity
Mm.
is that we've heard a lot of these stories about, well, men hold more positions of power, men hold more positions of authority, blah, 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 blah. You know, there's more men in Congress. Okay. You're taking 1% of 1% of 1% of all men in the country and
Mhm.
assuming that we all apply to that. Sorry, most of us are freaking broke.
Mm.
Yeah.
Most of us don't have that
That
power and
is
authority.
facts.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so
Right.
real.
Most of us don't have the
Yeah.
ability to have that much sway over society. Okay.
Yeah.
I go to work, I make money, I bring it home. My
Mhm.
wife goes and buys food, or, you know, and my wife works too. So she's, you
Mhm.
know, she's doing all those things too. But like you can't take a very small group of narcissistic pricks,
Mhm.
right, and then apply them to all of us. It doesn't work that way. I'm sorry. I'm not going to allow that
It has,
conversation to happen.
it has
Right.
that influence, right?
Yeah.
That 1%
Right.
has a tremendous amount of influence. And
Oh, absolutely.
honestly,
Yeah.
that's who we strive for. Honestly, I think when we see somebody like Kobe, and let's just say you love playing basketball, and we see somebody like Kobe, rest in peace. But
Mhm.
when we see
Yeah.
somebody like him, we envision ourselves like him.
Mhm.
President is male. We probably envision ourselves to be like him. Like, what did it take? I know in the military, I see a general, I see a colonel, or whatever. I'm like, oh, it's pretty nice, you know. And
That's
you
dope.
start to, you start to emulate different characteristics. Like, oh, you
Right.
got to do this, and this, you know. So that 1%, that one general on that whole entire base has that type of influence, you
Mhm.
know. And so I
That's
see
why
how
being the example is so important.
it is. It
Right.
is. And so we, now we're changing times now. Again,
Mhm.
we're talking about mental health at a crazy level,
Yeah.
to the point where most people, that's in their vocabulary now. They can
Right.
honestly say,
Yeah.
"Oh, I go see a therapist," and nobody's going to say anything,
Right.
And even the military, the help seeking behavior is huge too. So
Mhm.
we're definitely growing. But in our efforts to grow, we're gonna need some guidelines
Right.
to this
Right.
growing. Like we can't change no laws without processes. And one of
Right.
the things with managing emotions naturally, why I focused on how to apply it is because I noticed even in school, I learned a lot of different things, but I really did graduate not knowing how to apply it. I knew it
Mm.
though. I actually knew the words, I knew the definitions, I knew the terminologies, but I didn't know how to put that into practice,
Right.
And so when we say, hey, what is it going to take for you to be a better listener with your wife? What is it going to take for you
Yeah.
to be a better listener at work or whatever have you? How do you apply great listening skills? And it's being able to comprehend, right?
Mhm.
And so, but how do we comprehend? No one told me I
Right.
had to comprehend. Like you said, I can
There's
do
a
this.
there's a
Quick.
Oh,
big
sorry.
But no, you're fine. Quick question. I would like to know, do you believe, even though we are at a heightened level and probably more advanced than we've ever been as it relates to mental health, do you think we are where we need to be?
No, not at all.
No.
No.
absolutely not.
The mental health piece, the fact that we're talking about it and it's in the vocabulary now, people are starting to put a vision with it. They
Mhm.
may picture the chair sitting down. I know most of the people that come into my office are they're not ready to talk about why they respond the way they do. They really
Right.
talk about the triggers,
Mhm.
what happened to them. And that's all good
Right.
because that accountability piece, if we do not see accountability, I don't care if it's in our government structure, in our political, police, any leadership, if we don't see any accountability, it's going to be hard for children to grow up thinking accountability is a part of our responsibility as adults.
Mhm.
It's not going to happen. And so, yeah, when we're in therapy, I mean, it's a lot of people point fingers. They're not ready to take on that. You know what? I don't know how I respond to this to make her react this way. Like that's not the breaking down of it. It's more of everybody's
Yeah.
coming after me.
I think there's a
Yeah.
big difference between there has to be a difference between assertiveness and narcissism.
I got a
Assertive.
question too after David's done.
Oh no,
Mhm.
that was it.
Mhm.
That was
Okay, here's my question.
Mhm.
Do you guys believe that part of the problem about talking about men's mental health is women's discomfort with men expressing their feelings?
Absolutely.
Oof,
Yeah.
man, that's gonna get blocked out. Even the algorithm gonna chase that away. Like, no,
Right.
no, 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 no.
Right. It's gonna be suppressed.
Don't open up that can of worms.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
But
if
that's what
I,
they refer to as toxic femininity.
yeah,
You know, when it's literally, if she tells you be a man, like literally, guys will take that as like, wait, what? You know,
Right.
or
Right.
you know, or start. So it's yeah, yeah.
Well, the reason
Right.
why I asked that is because, for a long time, even today, you tell me if you see an unemotional man, I mean, if you see a very emotional man crying on a curb, right?
Welcome to Raw. Good to see you,
For a
brother.
long time, we perceive that as a threat.
Mm.
Like we don't know what an unstable emotional man is capable of doing,
right.
right? And that fear has translated over into today's culture of mental health. Like we are afraid of emotionally unstable men,
Mm.
Absolutely.
right? Because we see the damage that emotionally unstable men do. Mass shootings, mass acts of racism, just number of different things that are caused by emotionally unhealthy men.
Right.
Right. So I think a lot of the topic surrounding men's mental health comes with a certain taboo of fear that we don't know what men are going to do when they're emotional and when they're talking about their feelings.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I feel like, and I think I said this on our podcast when Coach was on there. I think there's something to be said when my lady, she speaks to me from a vulnerable state, and she really just needs me to listen and understand where she's coming from, versus when I speak to her and maybe later she uses that against me. She uses what, like, from when I was speaking to her from a very vulnerable state, and she'll take that and use what she said and use it against.
That's some toxic ass behavior if she's doing that.
First, let me say I'm sorry. No, seriously,
Right?
I'm laughing right now, but honestly, because I see that so much, like, I'm sorry. That's
Right.
We laugh because we're uncomfortable.
Right.
Yeah,
It's okay. But also it takes a level of maturity to know that amongst us.
So she,
Right.
yeah, that's very interesting. That she used that as a pitching tool, if you will, for the next,
Right.
If you're with a woman like that, you probably should find another woman.
Look,
Absolutely.
I'm not going to lie about it.
man,
Your mental health is important, right? If you're with a
Absolutely.
partner who does not respect and honor your mental health,
Mm,
get the hell out. Find someone else who will.
absolutely.
this
Because it's
question-
happened to me. It's definitely happened to me in the past,
Mhm.
but more with
To Raw, I'm not
No,
sure I really
and-
understand that comment.
and
Shootings are incel
versus
males, and women really
because
don't show
maybe
them any attention.
maybe we were using each other as
Are you saying that
soundboards,
all shootings
and
are
then
done by
from
incel
there-
males?
Yeah.
From there, like, maybe something happened to where, like, she did something I disagreed with, but I won't air out her dirty laundry, because
Yeah.
I know that there was
Yeah.
definitely a mutual understanding that, hey, I was speaking from the heart. I was being very vulnerable. Please don't tell anybody else. Versus when I
Yeah.
did it, and then everything is fair game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
Oof.
tough place to be in, and I will tell you that right there is your teaching. That's your lesson there.
Right.
And when people want to know why men may find it difficult to trust other individuals, it's because of
Two, are
experience.
you in here?
Yeah.
We store those things into our. I talked about the emotional box before, and how we
Yeah.
create these emotional boxes very early on in our lives, right?
Mhm.
So anytime we are so-called triggered.
Two, are you
those
want to
triggers
talk?
are so important, but why
I
you're
actually
carrying the box is even
Hold on,
more
I'm gonna put it on
you know,
pause.
and
Hold
we
on one
must
second.
understand that we will not be so triggered if we did not have the button.
that button has to be desensitized some way, shape, or form.
Mhm.
Okay, so I've raised this question or statement before where we look at the act versus how I respond.
All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Raw. How you doing, friend?
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
You got it. These brothers got a lot to say, right?
Yeah, they do. And I'm sitting there tripping. I actually thought that they was up on the show, and that's why I was listening. I thought they was up on your panel right now. So I just had to.
This is a previous chat that I had. This is Steve. This is Dr. Leahy, and then this is David. I had I have men over here all the time talking about men's issues and things of that nature. And but this one right here is I had a summit. I had a men's summit, and they are really discussing the after effects and kind of what they took away from the men's summit. But I enjoyed it so much. I wanted to take a look at it again. And every time I watch these things, I always learn something new. Um, you know, just because it's so rich.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it also. I was just
Mhm.
saying about the incel male and stuff like that. When he said something about men that react certain ways to like expressing themselves to women and
Yeah,
stuff. He said he used something about mass shootings and that's why I just said like most. Not all the mass shootings, but if you look at the mass shootings that take place, those be single brothers and be single guys out here doing stuff like that. And like those are the guys when I say incel males, those are the guys that women really don't show them any attention. So that's why they act the way they act. That's why
right.
they commit some crimes that they commit, you know.
I mean, yeah, I definitely see where you would say that because normally mass shootings are done by, people who are feeling isolated, um, or they feel mentally unstable. They don't have a core friend group. I mean, so that's
Nobody
consistent. And I've
attention.
not seen yet to where a woman has been the
Right.
perpetrator of, you know,
Mass shootings, school shootings is all done by boys. It's all done by males. And I talked
mhm.
about that one time too. Like you
A
don't
what
see.
now?
I said I talked about that once on my show. I was like, you never see like women committing these crimes that men doing. You know what I'm saying? So
I
because
mean, so why is that? What is
women
the
women are seen. They even even like some women that's not attractive. They, they can go get men like. But some men they can't attract like all women or some women, no women. Some men are attracted. Like how could I say this? Some men like get no play at all from women. It's like they don't even see them. You know what I'm saying? So, but you got a lot of women out there. They don't have to be the prettiest. They don't have to be like the most fit or anything like that, and they still get some type of attention from men. So men, when they do that, they just want to be seen for real. They be begging for attention, like when they go out and could do the stuff that they do.
so you think attention is that important that you're gonna, kill somebody just to get some attention?
Yeah, because the attention that they do get when it be a crime or like when it get real serious, like in like some shooters and stuff like that. Some of the time, most of the time, they the attention that they do get, it be in the bad light. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like everybody picking on them, laughing at them. They should get an attention showing them, but it's not the attention that they want. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some people just want to be
Well,
seen and stuff like that. And like, okay, you guys see me now. You take me serious now. You know what I'm saying?
okay, Steve said something a little bit earlier, and he talked about men being evolved enough emotionally in order to, handle the stage of life that we're in right now versus um, being a provider and a protector they should be more like a provider and a nourisher, because that's where we are in the stage of development right now. Like men need to be emotionally um, more developed. And you were actually saying a similar thing the other day on your channel. It had to be yesterday.
Yeah.
You were telling me that, men will be isolated and they don't have anybody. Okay, you were playing a video, and I was just going to say, men don't give other men the validation that they need based off of emotional things. Like, you can't go out there and overall, it's getting better now, but you can't go out there and really express yourself and let it out in a nonviolent way and then get validated by
Right.
another fella. That's not going to happen.
Right.
And then you went on to say, the guy was saying that a man doesn't get unconditional love from nobody but his mama. Um, and so I'm going to take that to mean perhaps he doesn't feel validated.
Right. I put an example out there. Before I met you, I did an example on my channel one day, and I said, you take any woman, it don't matter what color she is, race she is. You take a woman, right? And
Hmm.
just imagine a woman walking outside of Walmart or something like that. Soon as she come outside of Walmart, she can break down on her hands and knees and start crying like unconditionally, just like uncontrollably, just bust out in tears. Everybody will come to her side. A lot of women will come to her side and is asking her, "What's wrong? You okay?" But if a man do that, everybody gonna look at him like he weak, like, "Oh man, what you out here crying for, man? Get up, man. Ain't supposed to do that." Like you know what I'm saying? It's different. Like men that
So
do that,
I definitely think it's different. I don't know if it would automatically. I think some people would stop and check to see if what was wrong. I think some people would run away because they would begin to think he might be dangerous. And then I think some people would be like, "Man, this punk, what is going on?"
especially in our environments, like if it in the
Hmm.
community, they'll most likely be like, "Oh, you a punk out here doing that." You know what I'm saying? Because of how we was raised. But like women can do that, and like the women, all you'll have women come around hugging her, trying to just see what's wrong with her. But men, nobody really like care. They'll be like, okay, you a man, you supposed to suck it up, take it on the chin, and keep it moving. Like you know what I'm saying?
You
But
want to
it's
know what? That'd be a freaking good experiment. Like, if tomorrow you went to Walmart and filmed yourself seriously and just like cried. See what happened.
you got to do it with me. We got to do it together. You see on the women's side, we gonna see what happens. You go do it, and I go to Walmart. We both do
Okay.
it.
You want me to go to Walmart and just cry on the thing? Okay. Okay.
Oh man, see, I'm a man. I don't even think I can do that. Like,
You don't think you can do it? Wow. Not even for a social experiment.
it would be a good. It would be good. That's something to that's something to think about though. It will be good.
I can't believe you can't do that for me on a social experiment. I'm gonna have to get somebody to do that for me.
But that is a good social experiment though, for real. It really is.
You
And
know,
like talking about if it came down to it and I had to do it for the show, I will do that. I'll do it. I will do it.
yeah. I mean, you like if it came down to it, like it's like it is. I, I'm gonna get somebody to do that.
If we sit down and put our heads together and like think of like how we gonna do it, like I do that. You don't even have to go to Walmart. It could be anywhere at the corner store, anything. Just you know what I'm saying? Just it could be anywhere, anywhere with people, because people we looking for the people reaction, not the store or nothing like that. So
Right. But the reason why I think we said Walmart on purpose, because the crossword roads of, quite frankly, the world goes to Walmart.
right, okay,
You
I
want to
see.
know who got all the stimulus money? Walmart. Because everybody went to Walmart and bought something.
Right, you right.
This I'm gonna tell you who got Walmart and Amazon. That's who got the stimulus checks.
I guess I'm about to cut some onions up and put them in a towel, a rag or something,
No, man.
rub it on my eyes and just bust out crying in the Walmart. Just drop
What
down.
song might what song might make you want to know what? Maybe I think totally differently because my grandfather, he didn't mind, shedding a tear.
Yeah, I don't either. Like I don't either. I'm a crybaby myself. I really am. My kids will tell you, Daddy always
Why
cry.
you call yourself a crybaby? You're not a crybaby. You're a full-fledged
I'm a
human being.
That's just an example that I'm using. Like I will cry. Like I don't mind crying. I
I
say
know,
that
I guess
all the time. I cried on my channel before. Everybody done saw me cry.
right. I guess what I'm saying, if you call yourself a crybaby, you know what? I'm not comfortable with you calling yourself that name because it perpetuates that you're a baby just because you're crying, and then you're a man, and it perpetuates that idea that you can't cry
I just said it
and
like
be a
that.
man at the same time. And I wholeheartedly disagree.
Well, what I can call it a waterhead, I guess. I'm a waterhead. I can say that. That's
All
how
right, I'll let you call yourself a waterhead, but
waterhead.
as long as it means that you're emotionally in touch with who you are, you got to get in touch with your emotions. Um, you know, being emotionally available, emotionally vulnerable, and emotionally uh, responsible and accountable
That's
are
crazy.
big deals.
I met this girl and we've been kicking it. And I just got off the phone with her before I came on your live. And she just told me that she appreciate me being emotional, available. What you just said.
Right. You gotta
You
you
being
gotta do that.
let me get the chance to see who you are for you. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So I had no problem with that, like for real. I just use the term crybaby because that's just like that's what I say. I'm not a baby, you know what I'm saying?
You know what? I received that. It's just that somebody listening to you, like another man listening to you, um, might take that like have a connotation with it in his mind. Like if you cried and you a baby, you anything less than a man. And just because you cry does not mean that you're less than a man.
Right. And I said that on my channel too. I talk about that. I say, man, I don't want to be around nobody who can't express their feelings and who can't who's too big to cry. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Like they say men aren't supposed to cry, so why do we have tear glands? Why do we born to cry? We was half of us was born crying. You know what I'm saying? We can't we're crying. You know what I'm saying? So I don't get that when they say men are not supposed to be this type of way. Like that's the problem with the society now. You got too many guys that hold their emotions in because they don't want to cry, and then when they come out, they crying and they cry. They tears are like acts of violence. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Look, they crying. Men are crying. They crying out. They
Right,
want to be heard. They gonna shoot up the place.
right.
You know,
They
that's
make
not cool.
a lot of men make other people cry for them. They don't cry, so they make other people cry.
Mm, that's good. That's a good one right there. That
Mhm.
is that is a real good one.
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought about that.
Write it down. Take a picture.
Write it down. Take a picture. Take notes.
Right.
Um, I want to get this thing up because I mean, we had said about Walmart. This don't have nothing to do exactly with the particular idea that we was talking about, but I still wanna. I want to see if I can play it just because it it was messing with me in a good kind of way. It just made me laugh.
Go ahead. We on your show.
It's
You
my
got
world.
your world.
It's my world. Hold on. Where we at? Okay, bam. Hold on.
All right.
Hold up. Hey. Let me see. StreamYard StreamYard is beautiful, right? I love it. They have so many different things on it. but it don't have everything you want.
And I want to thank you too on while we on your channel. I want to thank you for like reaching out to me too, trying to like help me out with my stream, y'all.
My pleasure. No worries. Okay, it's uploading.
Okay.
Now, listen, we are content creators. This hustle is hard. This hustle is, it can be isolating, but it's a good hustle. It's fun. Now,
Right.
that's for sure. I think it's worth it. You know, particularly if you're putting out good content. Um, it's very interesting what people are drawn to, though.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Here, I'm gonna play this real fast. This is why. That's how they do on Walmart, okay?
I
That's
was
how,
bouncing like, okay, all right, bet.
okay, that is how they do in Walmart. Oh my, oh my, oh my. Hello, how are you?
Pretty good.
Oh,
I'm
look at my
awesome.
brother right here. It's
I beg
been a
your
while,
pardon.
man. It's been a while.
Absolutely, absolutely. Salute to you guys. Just got off the Lapeef Network, and I just wanted to do my due diligence and come to certain panels. I saw that the panel question said, "Are gender roles obsolete?" And I would like to broach that real quick, if I can.
Okay. Uh-huh.
God made a woman's hand small enough to wrap around a mop. Um, a woman's hand should be wrinkled from a days of washing dishes. A man should take out the trash. A man should do the heavy lifting. Gender roles have always been important, and they will continue to be important. Despite this woke culture that we live in, the pendulum will always come back, and both men and women will get right back into those gender roles that made this country great of yesteryear, and it will be great again.
Brother
Oops.
Chaotic.
Go ahead.
I remember Brother Chaotic Truth, man. We had our times together,
Yeah.
brother.
Yeah. But I saw the poll questions. You know.
Okay,
Good in my
did
book,
you
man.
vote in it? Did you vote?
Yes, I voted locally. I did an early vote.
No. Did you vote in my poll?
Oh yeah, I voted in your poll. Of course, I voted in your poll. That's what got me over here. Yeah, I
Right.
voted.
No, I definitely appreciate
Yeah,
I definitely appreciate that. Thank you so much.
absolutely, absolutely.
Awesome.
Okay, so I heard you say like God made women hands small enough to wrap around a mop.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
And some
Absolutely.
guys with some small hands too. You know what I'm saying? So what's their role?
Well, a man is still strong. A man can still build men were built to build skyscrapers. We were built to mine. Women weren't designed that way, and they should not have to do those hard, dangerous tasks. And I don't think that they will want to anyway. It is a beauty in a woman being domestic and a man being masculine. It is what has built society.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you.
Absolutely.
So you
Yeah.
think domestic is opposite than being masculine?
No. In fact, I believe that both domestic and masculinity are one and the same. You know, you wouldn't expect your mom to be 50 feet up building a skyscraper, welding some steel together, right? You wouldn't expect your dad to be knitting some clothes. It's a certain order to nature. And yes, could a woman be 50 feet up on a steel beam, on a I beam? Sure, why not? Could a man be knitting clothes like a little woman? Sure. But you know that
He
there's
said like a
something.
little woman.
Yeah, but when you see these things, you see something that is it's something that doesn't it's something that doesn't go right with that.
Mhm.
You wouldn't
Mhm.
want to see your mom on top of a roof,
But my dad is almost 80. He knows how to do a multiplicity of things. And even at 80, if he's on the roof, like, hey, Dad, what's up, man? I'll talk to you later. It's just certain things that the brain sees and interprets. But yeah, if I went to my parents' house and my mom was on the roof, I'd be like, Mom, what the fuck are you doing over there? You wouldn't want your mom doing hazardous things,
Mhm.
But then if I came to my house and I saw my dad knitting, with the girls, that's kind of weird.
Mhm.
He can't do it. But yeah, no,
Mhm.
I think, like I said, masculinity and domestication runs in tandem.
Yeah, I see it. I see
Yeah,
what
I asked you that question because your juxtaposition was domestic versus masculinity versus femininity. So that's why I was curious about what you said.
mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah,
Hmm. So that was that particular thought. And so what you're saying is, I just want to repeat what I heard. You
sure.
said that domestic, being domestic and being masculine um, run in tandem.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. They're one
So,
and the same. Yes.
so I'm just clarifying they're one and the same.
Yeah.
Okay. So, can you break that?
Elaborate.
Yeah, elaborate on that for me.
So what I mean is that they're one and the same, as in they're both needed. Um, you as a man or you as a woman can do either or. I mean, like I said before, I'm pretty sure there are many women who work a crane, but
Hmm.
the whole idea is that, okay, it's just not your place to do that.
Hmm.
I don't know what it is about the way that I perceive nature, but it's just not your place. I
Hmm.
can tell you this story. Many years ago when I was in college, it was 20 years ago. Now, when I get drunk, for some reason, I like to clean. And there was this African party, and it was a group of Congolese girls. These girls from Congo.
Hmm.
They were cleaning up after the party, and I was in the kitchen trying to help them. The
Hmm.
girl said, "Oh, no, 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 no. You have to leave. You have to. Men are supposed to clean up. No, women are supposed to do this." Now, mind you, my hands work just the same as theirs. I could have
Hmm.
easily helped them take the trash out, wash the dishes, sweep the floor, but they didn't allow it. They said, "Listen, a
Hmm.
man is not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to be here in this environment."
Hmm. Hmm.
For example, there are 12-year-olds who know how to drive cars. Now, maybe this isn't the best example, but would you really want to be on the road and you see some 12-year-old drive up next to you, even if they could drive? It's just something about it. Like, okay, I don't want this. I don't want this 12-year-old driving for some reason. Now,
Hmm.
that may not be the best of examples, but I just feel like there's a place for everything.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but that doesn't have like I'm a truck driver, right?
Thank you, sir.
It's women that's in this field. It's a lot of women getting into the field of truck driving, and a lot of brothers be like, "Oh, women not supposed to be out here on the road driving trucks."
Mm,
But it's not a physical thing. Just like when you said like the crane and everything like that, that's not physical work. That's just like that's more muscle memory and stuff like that. Working with
mm.
stuff like that. So I feel like a woman, I don't think she should be out there laying bricks and toting bricks and stuff like that.
No, no.
Operating a crane or a truck or flying a plane, like stuff like that. That's more like using your brain and like muscle memory, and you know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Not
yeah,
physical.
yeah.
So, do you think that it seems like the person is not supposed to be that should not be just because the brain is unfamiliar with it?
Yes. The brain is very unfamiliar with it.
And so you get that response because it's unfamiliar.
Yes.
So of course your brain is gonna have that response.
I
So
agree.
so it doesn't make it right or wrong per se just because you're unfamiliar with it. And I'm not saying whether or
Yeah.
not it's right or wrong. What I'm saying is the reason why your brain responds that way is because it's unfamiliar with it.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Now you put that very well. Absolutely.
She did.
Yeah, you put that one very well. Well, I have to depart you guys for the night. I have to get to the wife. I just got done doing a live stream, but this has been a great conversation. And you brought that. I mean, you definitely hit that one out the park with your explanation.
Well, thank you. Thank you
Peace.
very much. You come back. I got some things I want to run by you. And there is a few gentlemen I think it would be really great to see you have a conversation with. I am subscribed to your channel, but I don't have I don't know, do you have an email that's on your channel?
Yes, it's chaotic truth podcast at gmail.com. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean, but is it on there? I have to look on your YouTube.
It's on there. Yeah, it's on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I can invite you when I have the fellas on, and there's a few things you guys can talk about. You may have not noticed, but I have a whole catalog of
Yeah.
men expressing themselves.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yep. I have a global positive masculinity campaign.
Sounds good.
It's pretty interesting. Thank you
Sounds
for
good.
coming.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Bye-bye for now.
Peace.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
y'all the good people, man. Yeah, I met him a few months ago.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That's cool. Check this out.
I woke up on Friday morning at 4 a.m. to a message that one of my friends back home had killed himself. This was 5 hours before me weigh-in. So Ricky, lad, that's for you. But there's a stigma in this world that men can't talk. Listen, if you're a man and you've got weight on your shoulders and you think the only way you can solve this by killing yourself, please speak to someone. Speak to anyone. People would rather, I know I'd rather me mate cry on my shoulder than go to his funeral next week. So please, let's get rid of this stigma and men start talking.
Men start talking. I'm telling you, for real. It's
Okay.
too suffering in silence, for real. And then that's why some people say, like, I didn't even see that coming. He killed himself. And a lot of people be surprised, but he was suffering the whole time. And some
Mm-hmm.
that are talking, they will leave like subliminals. You know,
Right.
they'll leave a lot of subliminals where some people will like skip right past those. They don't even see it. And then that adds on to the trauma in the man's mind. He be like, dang, I'm secretly crying for help and they don't even see that. You know what I'm saying? So it'd be better off to just come out and tell people how you feel, for real. Just like he said, come talk to somebody, find somebody to talk to. Because we rather
So
you on our shoulders than we go to some of our friends' funerals and stuff like that.
so listen, I 100% agree with that men should definitely talk. I guess what is also coming to mind is this idea of the unfamiliar and the repercussions of that, because um you know, chaotic came out the box very strong, saying, a woman's hands. It was kind of funny. I was like, what in the world? Made it, small enough to wrap around a mop, and a man's hands were strong enough to do what? What did he say?
I forgot what he was saying. I heard him
But
say the mouth, and I forgot what he said. A man had strong enough to do.
hmm
Yeah.
and not that that's not true in regards to a woman's hands being smaller than a man. Um, but I don't know if we want to base the whole narrative of the world based off the size of people's hands.
I was saying like it's some men with small hands too that's big enough for a mop.
You know, and I brought that all up because it ties into this idea of, being familiar with things, you familiar with it, so it seems right. But just because you're familiar with it doesn't make it right.
Right.
You know.
With
Uh,
all the wrong things, like we can be familiar with all the wrong things.
you got that right. Even you know what? A lot of my students um, come from backgrounds
Mhm.
that solve problems with their hands. Sometimes so they solve problems by like yelling and screaming or but yet let me take it off that particular narrative and let me put it on a man woman narrative. If a woman uh catch her guy cheating on her and she's mad, right? What's a societal response
I
that
bust up
you
inside his car.
right, right. Okay. She gotta bust the windows out his car. Some foolishness like that. Why are you doing that, ma'am? What is that? But societal principles say that's what you do. Or if you grow up in a household putting your hands on people, if a guy, catches woman with a man, societal say, oh, you beat up the guy. What sir, why are you putting your hands on that other man? He didn't take any violence to you. What are you doing?
Right. See, another thing is, Coach Love, what I tell people too, so a lot of people it don't make sense to them, but like it makes sense to me. But look,
Mhm.
I really feel like men should raise their daughters and the women should raise the sons because women they know what they expect out of a man, a real man, because that's what they're attracted to. That's what they naturally attracted to. And men, we should be able to raise our daughters because we know we are naturally attracted to women. So
Mhm.
take to be a good woman, you know what I'm saying? And women know they can know a good man when they see one too, you know what I'm saying? So it's like I really feel like you know how they say opposites attract? It's something
Right.
like and we can show as men, we can show our daughters love and they'll know what to look for when they get older. Like, oh, I want a man that's gonna treat me like my daddy treated me.
Mhm. Mhm.
With the women, with the sons. You know what I'm saying? That way it won't be a lot of that like that guy was saying on my live last night when I put it up there, like men crying for attention and stuff like that. Because it'll naturally be given. Like if the women raise their sons and show them the love like they do, you know what I'm saying? Not like that, but you know what I'm saying? Like they'll know what to look for in a woman when they get older. They'll want a woman like their mom type, you know what I'm saying? And I just feel like men should raise the daughters and the daughters and the mother should raise the sons because my mom is the one who really like taught me how to like really be a man. The man that I am today, when people hear me talk, my dad didn't teach me this. Like my mom taught me this. You know what I'm saying? My mom told me, oh, men don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like men don't do that. And then you take it different from your mom because you be like, okay, you know what I'm saying? She see that. She like, oh,
So, in your opinion, a common question that is asked is if a woman can raise a good man, a strong man.
I totally think so.
Okay. All right.
'Cause my mom was she did one. She raised me. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And I learned from her when I seen other dudes come around. Like
Mhm.
I saw the guys that my mom played with, and I saw the guys that my mom like took serious, and I was like, okay, the ones that she played with and like really wasn't feeling like that, and I always said like I don't want to be like that guy, but like the
Mm.
like I know the guy like my mom loved to death. His name was Willie Carpenter. They call him Willie C. And
Mhm.
I always was like, he's not even my dad, but I was like, I want to be like him. You know what I'm saying? He called me his son. You know what I'm saying? I'm not his son. He knew that. But like, and I looked at him like he was my daddy. You know what I'm saying? Like that's my dad. You feel me? Like he was a good like guy to be like to look up to. You know what I'm talking about? So
Mm-hmm. He was a
so
good dude. He was
yeah,
he was a good dude.
yeah. And I was
Okay.
my granddaddy raised me, like granddaddy and grandma. But like I really saw it when I was like out there living when I had to live with my mom, and I saw it, and I'm like, okay. And my mom always told me like I remember I used to argue back and forth with my kid's mama, and my mama the one who stood down and was like, boy, like don't let that girl see you sweat. You know what I'm saying? And you don't go back and men don't go back and forth with women like that. They don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not that made both of y'all on the same level, and like you a man, you're not supposed to do that. So that's my mama the one who put that in me, and I was like, you know what, you right. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I don't know. It's just hard to explain. So, but everybody don't have a mom like that though. So yeah, my mom.
So, I mean, I I would take what your mom said. It's not good to go back and forth with anybody. Like just arguing with somebody just to be arguing without I mean to me that's crazy. Now, you can talk to me, you can express your argument, but what people think, you talking over me, I'm talking over you, somebody calling you names and back and forth, that's like exhausting, that's ridiculous. Um It leads to absolutely nothing and nowhere. We're not learning nothing. It's just a bunch of people screaming. That's stupid.
Right.
You're not getting nowhere with that. Let me play this video real quick for you. What you get out of
He's
this?
retired each of the first 4 that he's faced. What in the world do we have here? Ozzy Albies and Ronald Acuna Jr. Nap time. Getting a little massage there, a little scalp massage. Best of friends, those two.
Probably going, listen, I think I'm a little stressed right now. I need to find a way to relax. Come over here. I got you.
I got you. I got just the thing.
What's your response, sir?
That's a little too much, a little bit to me. To me, that's just a little too much. Now, like you know what I'm saying? But
I
hey,
mean,
to
I don't know. That
his own, like he might needed that right then. He probably got a phone call at the dugout, like somebody died in his family. Like I don't know like the severity of what's going on right there. It just looked like it was, you know what I'm saying? He didn't get, I don't know. That got to be deeper than getting struck out. You know what I'm saying? Like he probably got struck out or something or cut from the team. Like that'll be a little too
I
much.
mean, if that was two women, would you be upset? What's up, lead guitar man? What's up, Robert, my friend?
No, I wouldn't be too much upset, man. But it's just
No, if there was women, are you coming up,
I wouldn't be upset, bro.
Robert?
I wouldn't be upset if it was women because women are like they naturally emotional. So we
I mean,
naturally too, but
why man can't do that? I'm just wondering. I'm just asking.
that just looked like it went too far.
Did it look romantic? What happened?
That was just a little too much. That did look romantic. Hold on,
I
somebody.
don't know. I don't know.
He's retired each of the first 4 that he's faced. What in the world do we have here? Ozzy Albies and Ronald Acuna Jr. Nap time. Getting a little massage there, a little scalp massage. Best of friends, those two.
Probably going, listen, I think I'm a little stressed right now. I need to find a way to relax. Come over here. I got you.
I got you. I got just the thing.
Robert, too raw, Robert. How y'all doing?
Good. How you doing?
What's up, Robert?
Not much. I can't see your name, so I'm not sure what to call you.
Too raw.
Pardon?
His name is Too Raw.
Too raw. Okay.
Too raw, like raw fruit.
Yeah, I got you. Too raw, like raw steak.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah, that I have to agree with him that without a context to that video,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really have to reserve opinion on that. Going, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm. But my question is, why isn't that? Why can't that be normalized? Why is why is a man showing another man affection at that
I'm not
level of
saying
normal?
that it. Okay, now wait a minute here. Let's back up.
Okay.
I'm not saying that something like that can't be normalized because I don't know the situation. There
I mean,
are
what
certain.
situation has to be?
Hold
What
on.
has to, it has to exist
if he
for a
was in
man
the
to get
middle
a
of the
hug?
game, if he got a call to the dugout and like your wife just passed away,
Why
like
somebody
some
has to die for a man to get a hug?
no, but
That's a little more than a hug.
that was more than a hug. He was
Yeah, it's a
rubbing
little more
his
than a hug.
massage on his scalp.
We done. It's like we done crossed the line into we getting into personal space now.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not a homophobe. They might be into that gig. That's fine. If that's the context, great. All for it. But in a general day-to-day man thing, yeah, I've hugged my best friends, things like that, all that shit. But that's a bit much in a baseball game.
Okay.
You know, unless
So if
there's
it wasn't a baseball game, I mean, when is it
I
okay
mean,
for a man
okay, let's put it this
to
way. Let's put it this way.
when
If it was
is
something that was emotional,
yeah, when is
um,
it okay for a man to show affection towards another man without it being sexual and
well,
supportive?
no. You're misinterpreting what I'm getting at. Is there's nothing wrong with men showing other men affection or comforting or anything. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But from a man's perspective, now if I was, as Two Ross said, you know, maybe he got a call and you know his puppy dog died or something. Who knows? Christ.
He said his puppy dog.
You know that would be understandable, but to me, if it's just a baseball game, that's a bit much.
Maybe he was tired. Maybe
if I'm tired, the last place I'm going to be is in another man's lap.
All of them was tired. That would have been the group hug. It was just two of them. You didn't even see the other players in the dugout.
Yeah, that was when I popped in here, that's the first thing I see. I'm like, what? What's going on here?
Like,
They
what
both
is
they
up
both
going
could be
on
married,
here?
right? They both could be married, and if they was just like sitting in the backyard like that, and both of their wives came out the door, both of their wife would be thinking something up with that. Not just
you ain't wrong there.
they'll be like, hold on, like what's going on here? You know what I'm saying?
And I'm not saying that they wouldn't think something was wrong. What I'm saying is, why do we have to think something is wrong? I'm like, questioning.
No. Okay, let me ask you this. Do you generally see two women engage in that kind of thing without reason?
I mean, but our reason might be like if we were sitting on a couch together and we were watching a movie, it is not uncommon for two women to put their feet on one another.
Okay, but that women are emotional by nature.
You know?
Men generally are cold, hard bastards.
Oh my, and so what I'm saying is, I'm saying that it would be good to get beyond that. You know?
Wait a minute here. I have to disagree with that.
Okay.
And there's several reasons why
So you want men to be cold-hearted bastards.
Because there's a time and a place sometimes when you have to be a cold-hearted bastard, even if it goes against your nature.
I think, well, I mean, you can say that for women. There's a time and a place for us to be, cold-hearted.
You know I'm a veteran, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I got into a conversation with somebody who was not.
Yes.
And I posed a question to him. You're on a mission, and you're going down a road, and you come across a car where two adults are shot, and there's two children in the back.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do?
Don't ask me.
Wait a minute. Did you just not say that women can do as the cold-hearted men can do? What would you do?
First of all, I didn't say I could. And it has nothing to do because I'm a woman. It has nothing to do. First of all, there's a bunch of things that I can't do that other women do that
Yeah,
I cannot do. All
but
right.
if you're gonna pose something to me,
But then second of
as
all,
a truism, I'm
I'm
gonna
not,
say,
if you want me to call a woman who's a veteran, I can get one on the phone for you. I got some friends that are
sure,
veterans, you know, and
sure,
they shoot
absolutely.
and kill. They have shot and killed people, and that's what they do. But we're not the same kind of girls. As a matter of fact, I had some I had an all girl veteran panel, and they do things that I don't want to do.
Well,
Because
and I
that's
agree.
the
There's a lot
but
of things that a lot of people have to do that they don't want to do.
no, but that's the kind of, I guess what I'm saying, that's the kind of woman they are. And so you can't compare a woman who is my way, the
But
kind of woman I am versus the kind of woman they are. They
okay, but hold
they
on now.
combat.
Hold
That's
on,
what they
hold on.
do.
Then you need to qualify what you're saying when you say men need to get beyond what you're seeing there, because
Mhm.
you would never see that without reason from a male of my mindset. And I'm assuming two Raws too, because his reaction was pretty similar to mine.
Right. And I'm not saying, please understand that I'm not saying that your reaction is wrong. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is, and you know what? I wish Steve, I'm going to see if I can wake Steve. Well, he's probably not asleep. Actually, he is generally
Well, let
a,
me ask you this then. What did you mean by get beyond that?
what I mean is, you know what? Let me see if I can rewind. Um, I'm saying the different stages, we're in a different stage of life, not we as in me, not we as in uh you. We are not, in general, most people are not on a battlefield in general. Okay. And
Correct. But that doesn't mean that
yeah,
men should stop being men.
I don't think that has to, that's not being a man. That is
Now,
not,
wait a minute here.
why
Wait.
do we have to make being a man so small?
Hold on. Hold
You
on.
can be a man and be bigger than just the sum of shooting, killing, and killing things.
I never posed that.
You know, but you
What
just said that's not being a man. I'm not saying
Nah,
I
but that
would
dude that's
say
on the
man.
screen here, David 2K, is that his name?
Who's David 2K? Okay, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, David. On the screen. Go ahead.
David, he said something about how his wife treated him when he came in and like expressed his feelings. It's like he was soft or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So, and when he said that, the first thing came to my mind was like, because how he just said it. Like he said it in a soft way, and as a like man, like other men won't take you serious for real if you talking like that. So if other men won't take you serious, the women probably won't either. If it's your delivery, like how you talking and stuff. He said that with no confidence. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know.
And I guess I need to qualify what I'm getting at, Coach, is that I'm not saying that a man should be always cold and uncaring and unemotional. But generally speaking, we are the ones who are relied upon to have to make or do the things that may need us to be that way.
Okay, more cold-hearted. Big ups to Lady Fresh.
Yeah, how you doing, Lady Fresh?
Anybody stop by, please subscribe to her channel. She is a wonderful woman. Her and her husband, Fresh Breezy, they got a lot going on over there, including with the drunk uncles. They're some cool people. But go
Send me
ahead.
her link. Send me her link later on.
I'm about to put it down. I'm about to put it in. I'm gonna pick her up, and she has a lot of good stuff going on over there. She keeps her eye on the street. She does an abundance of different kinds of content.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
She did a review of what's that man's name? Biggie Smalls and another guy.
I'll
That
be back in 1 minute.
okay, that Biggie was supposed to have stole some music from or something like that. So that was real good. As well. So y'all check her out. I just dropped her link. It was really good. But to go back to what Robert was saying, you know what? I guess in the same way he said men were cold-hearted bastards, and that hit me like, oh man, I don't want to call being a man a cold-hearted backwards. To me, being a man is not equivalent to being a cold-hearted backwards. I don't want that to be an equal equation, just the same way that I don't want to call a man a crybaby just because he got tears rolling down his face. I don't want to put those negative labels on a man. I just don't.
That as cold-hearted bastards too. So being
Wait a
cold-hearted is not a gender thing. Being cold-hearted, you know what I'm saying? So
Right, but okay. He said women are something, and he said men are cold-hearted bastards.
No.
naturally
Women tend to be emotional.
Okay.
Men tend not to be.
Okay. Now, see, you can say that, but you can't be calling men cold. But you can't be calling men cold-hearted
see
bastards.
that's you being emotional too. From just I understood what he was saying though.
No, but words mean words
Like when
have
I
power.
said the word crybaby, you was like, don't call yourself a cry. That's just, but it's just how I was saying it. But when he say men are cold-hearted bastards, I didn't take it like we just walk around being bastards and stuff like. But I see what he's saying though, because it's like we the ones who have to make the like critical decisions and stuff like that. Because a woman, she'll start thinking like, you know what I'm saying? Like I could like when he said about the kid, 9 times out of 10, a woman to be like, oh man, that's a kid. But a man to see the threat in that kid, that he got a gun and he was trained to kill. So you gotta take him out. You know what I'm saying? And then like a lot of dudes that do that, when they take them out or whatever, they'll come back and they'll be like, down the road you will feel sorry for it, but at the moment you had to do what you had to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I'm not saying that, I couldn't kill, if I was in a war, I couldn't kill a kid that was a car bomber. I'm not saying that.
But what
Boy, what the hell are we talking about?
Oh, no, it was just, hey, what's up, man?
Cold-hearted bastards.
How's it going, guys?
But so this is the deal. Robert called men cold-hearted bastards, and Turok called men crybabies if they cried.
No.
Hold on. This is what he said. You weren't here. That's what he said. And
He's retired each of the first 4 that he's faced. What in the world do we have here? Ozzie Albies and Ronald Acuna Jr. Nap time. Getting a little massage there, a little scalp massage. Best of friends, those two.
Probably going, listen, I think I'm a little stressed right now. I need to find a way to relax. Come over here. I got you.
I got you. I got just the thing.
all right, and they agree that I'm emotional just because I have a concern with the labels of cold-hearted bastards and crybaby and putting them on men, and I just don't think that that's okay to throw that on men like that as a generality.
But you're taking it out of context.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that men.
Go ahead. You do your rundown. Go ahead.
Men at times, generally speaking, in the, shall we say, God, I don't even know how to put that. In the older sense, a traditional sense, usually end up playing the role of having to make the tough decisions that are not necessarily always nice. Which means at times it may call for you to be a cold-hearted bastard.
Yeah.
That's just the reality.
Hey, look. Okay, hold on, and I could just, Robert, just know that I can rewind this.
Yes. Go ahead.
Right. But that's not, you didn't say men at times can be cold-hearted bastards. You said women
Yes,
are emotional
emotional, and
and
men
men
are cold-hearted
are
bastards
cold-hearted bastards. And
in that
I,
Okay.
in
yeah,
context.
I just don't want y'all to be calling. Don't just paint men with that ball, that broad brush, just like
So
But you did
I
the
don't know the
same thing,
names
though.
because there's not any names on the screen, Coach. So I don't know who's
okay.
talking.
So hold on, let me get it to
But
you.
I'd like to throw in 2 cents
Okay.
on top of my 14-year-old scotch.
Okay now.
Okay, so there was a study done recently that that verified that men and women don't have a different sensibility as towards emotions. We feel the same emotions, we just express them differently, and we
Right.
process them differently. As far as being cold hard bastards, that's something you have to be taught. That is not innate. We are taught that our bodies are disposable as men because that's what was necessary for all time and eternity. While I agree with you, it has its utility, and I behave as you've discussed. I have to acknowledge that I am not a cold-hearted bastard, that I'm an emotional feeling person who has needs, loves, and wants. I want to have more intimate relationships with the men around me, and like I want to be able to have and hold a trust between us that extends beyond what society deems is okay. I want to have more intimate relationships with men. Not sexual. I'm talking about emotional relationships.
Right, which is fine.
Yeah, but the problem that I have, and I'm not criticizing you. I want that to be 100%
Well, no,
clear.
I'm going to let you have your say, and then I'll rebut you. No problem.
Okay.
It's making sense to me. Like I said,
Yeah. There
It's
is a
like
utility for a man to shut his feelings off to get shit done, because that has been historically our role. It has been our role to protect and defend our family, our country. Our bodies have always been the first one on the chopping block. We're the only ones that are legally mandated to die for our country. It's called the Selective Service Act. So from a young age, we are taught not to get close to our mates. We are still living as though we are role mates, and we would like to become soulmates.
Okay, can I address some of that?
Sure.
All right. This last part you're talking about, when I was in the service.
Can I add one more thing really quick before you go?
Sure, go ahead.
I don't want to disparage men and say that, we have to eschew this role that we've always played in all of our lives, but we do have to come to the realization that a transition needs to happen, and a blending of the two worlds between being kinder, simpler, smarter, and more emotional, but also maintaining our masculinity that has basically and in effect created the beings that we love, which are manly men who take care of shit when that needs to get taken care of. But at some point in time, we have to address the suicide rate and understand that men do need to express their feelings
And
somehow in a healthy
agree with
way.
you.
So that's all I wanted to add.
I just want to say hashtag what Steve said.
Yeah. That's that. You said
Okay,
right.
Steve. Let me address about the having close relationships with other men.
Yeah.
I was in the service in teams.
Okay?
Yep. And I'm going to leave it at that. But everybody that I served with, I knew intimately. To the
Teams.
point
Do you mean
where-
small teams, large teams?
Small.
That'll give me an idea. Okay, I understand what you're talking about then.
Well, small, sometimes large, depending on the situation.
Yeah, there's only 3 things I can think of that would do that. So
Yeah,
you're fine. I'm familiar.
We were very intimate with all of us, to the point to where I considered them my brothers, literally. And I would have laid my life down for any of them. To say that we don't have that, we do. And for the most part, I am a very nice guy in society. I'm very kind to people.
No, you sound like a horrible person. Come on now.
Yeah, I know it.
I'm kidding.
Oh, I know. I understand sarcasm, guy. But When you say that from historical, what I'm saying from is traditional. And speaking as someone who's been married 35 years now, which is the exception, not the rule now, but the roles that I've played as a father and a grandfather, and many of the trials that I've went through in life has dictated whether, as you say, I have to shut those emotions down and control them, unlike we would. Wearing your emotions on your sleeve sometimes can suit you, but I don't think it becomes a normality for males just by the very nature of our society and how it's structured.
Hmm. Can you explain that just a little bit more so I'm clear?
Okay, it's kind of like this. If you allow emotion to dictate your choices in a situation,
Mm-hmm.
it may lead you to the wrong conclusions about that situation.
90% of the times it will.
Well, and that's my point.
Right.
And speaking from a male role, I have to assess things without emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Being at the raising of my kids, my grandkids, how I deal with the schools and the laws and everything that's going on. I have to deal with those without emotion, because if you put motion in the equation, as the saying goes, facts don't care about your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care about your feelings. And from a male standpoint, and I'm not trying to be the super duper alpha whatever type thing, because I'm certainly not. But
only wise men know the difference there.
Yeah.
So you're obviously a wise man.
But we can't play a role in society where we start trading out how we handle things just for the sake of doing so.
Mm.
I've not seen anything change in society that would lead me to believe that men need to be more emotional. I think they need to be more caring and understanding in times, for sure.
Yeah.
But to think that we're going to allow emotion to dictate our actions would be a little scary to me.
Well, let me know when I can challenge you on that.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. When you are deciding what tires to put on your wife's car, what dictates that?
What's suited best for what's needed.
But is your wife's safety the primary concern?
Absolutely.
That would be an emotional decision.
But it's based on actual outcomes.
Right. But it's based on feeling first. And the reason, let me tell you why I'm arguing that. I'm not arguing it because I'm telling you you're wrong. I'm arguing it because what I'm suggesting is that our decisions are a lot more emotional than we're willing to admit.
Well, hold on. Let me pose that same question back to you real quick.
They are different in their outcomes.
Let me pose that same question back to you real quick. I want to show you the difference between, even though I understand what you're saying, it is not an emotional based decision.
Okay.
If she come up and said, well, I got to have these types of tires because I want them, and you're going to buy them for me because you're my good husband, then it becomes emotional. Do I do what my wife wants me to do? Or do I do what's the best option?
Well, it depends on if you love your wife.
Well, let's see. There you go. Then it stops being emotional, and out walks the cold-hearted bastard, because I'm going to get what fits, not what she wants, what fits.
Right. Well, this is what my argument was: is that men process emotions differently.
Absolutely.
Now we process emotions under the veil of logicity, right? We veil our decisions under that mask of cold-heartedness, but really what it is in my personal opinion, this is just my personal opinion, is we mask the feelings that we have during these decisions via logic, But when it really comes down to it, we care about these people so deeply that we are not willing to fuck around with the tires. You are going to get the safest tires, the best tires, and the tires that we can afford. So I think the way that we express how we feel is very different, but they're still emotional decisions. They're just more calculated.
And I'll agree with you on that if you want to look at it from that standpoint. Absolutely
Yeah,
agree with you on that.
I don't know. I don't know if I could, but because I spend a lot of time thinking about this kind of stuff, and I think the reason why women seem more emotional is because their willingness to show the emotional outright, whereas men are much more reserved, but we still have the same feelings, and I think that's why men seem more prone to outburst, is because we never really were taught how to deal with those conflicting emotions. And when you have conflicting emotions, they come out as aggression. Well, I mean, you are trained, military trained, are you not?
Yes.
As am I. I don't generally talk about it. But well, that's the thing, is that men who are in the military are often predisposed to be able to be in the military. That's why the military is not full of pussies. Right, so you've got the socio-emotional learning very early on.
At the moment.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
Can
Yeah,
I-
we know the military at the moment.
Okay, so
But you get what I'm saying. Is like I think there's a wider brand, or a wider band of emotional coverage here that we're not giving fair credit to.
okay,
Okay,
so
I want to jump in on something, but first I want to see if Tura has anything to add.
yeah, I just wanted to add because they was talking about war and the military and stuff like that. I just wanted to say, so if we was to go back in the time or whatever, if we can go back in time travel, and war never existed, will men be able to express their feelings in a different way? Because it
I
seems
think
like,
so.
you know what I'm saying? It seemed like
But we
because of
wouldn't be
war
who we are if
from the beginning of time as to why men have to have tough skin, and you know what I'm saying? 'Cause I heard Steve
Yeah.
was talking earlier, and it seemed like he was saying like we was built this way, trained. It was basically trained to be this way.
Well, if you look at both if you look at both oh, for crying out, why am I drawing a blank? If you look at evolutionary psychology, and you look at the process of Darwin's selection,
survival of the fittest.
right, survival of the fittest, what you get is you get the guys who are the most capable of killing, who are the most capable of being smart while doing it. Those are the ones that are actually, putting forth their seed into the pool of evolutionary DNA, right? So the biggest, best, and strongest always survive. We have no idea how weak the weakest link 70,000 years ago would look like. We would not be able to recognize it. It would be so low on our totem pole. We wouldn't know what to do with it.
Right.
So what you see as a result of all of that millennia of breeding, to say it in no less of a dignified term, or a dignified term, is the men that you see today are the winners of evolution. Even the worst ones that we see, even the weakest ones that we see, you got to remember, those were still the ones that won out. So what did the ones that didn't win look like?
Right.
So when this is a great point, Uncut. This is a great point, because this is something nobody ever talks about, and I'm so glad that you brought that up.
Right.
Is that who we would be so drastically different if it wasn't for war, but it would still also be drastically different because we had to hunt.
Yep.
Dangerous animals kill you if they don't want to be killed, right? So we would still have a very close to warrior mentality, I believe. But it wouldn't be the same. I think we would be much more emotionally connected with our comrades in arms, but I don't think it would be the same way. It would be very different. It would be very, it would be like drinking buddies, kind of a connection, right?
Right.
But there would still be a distance, because you have to take into consideration, I don't know how long I'm going to know you. I don't want to get close and have an emotional attachment to you if I don't know how long you're going to live. So I'm going to keep my emotional distance to some degree. that right there harbors a deficiency in intimacy between men that would still result in a very similar outcome, but I think it would be drastically different than the one that we have today.
Right.
I don't think the landscape would be much different, though.
I don't think so either.
Across
I think
humanity, I don't think it'd be much different.
Yeah,
I was
landscape is a
saying
good
that,
word.
like when those two guys was just in the dugout hugging and stuff like that. Like if war never exists, maybe that would be the norm. For guys
I have to agree with you too, Raw.
Yeah.
If men didn't have to be aggressive and be men as we define them in this day and age, or in any cycle of humanity in the past, then yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at bonobos, our closest relative. They get their freak on all the time.
Yeah, they're one of the few monkeys that don't go through heat. Yeah.
You know, but they don't have, it's not they're not incapable of violence, because they certainly are.
Right.
But they've never been in a situation where aggressiveness and strength had to be the defining, the de facto to who breeds and who doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, when survival comes down to it, we are a product as I can't read your name down there. It's way too small.
Ironhead?
Ironhead?
Yeah, that's not my actual name. I got to change that real quick.
Yeah,
that's a nickname I have with my biker friends.
Well, you can call me Robert, because that is my name. We are a product, as he said, of our past.
Right.
And to think that we're going to take and change tens of thousands of years of evolution in a matter of acceptance is why we have people committing suicide, because confusion steps in. All of a sudden you're going against what you can be trained from very young to think a certain way, but it's still not going to change the underlying nature.
Well, do you know what the highest predictor for juvenile suicide is?
What's that?
It's fatherlessness.
And
the number one predictor.
That doesn't shock me. I'm a firm believer it takes two parents. And it doesn't necessarily have to be their own parent, but a male role and a female role. We learn different things from different role players in our lives.
Well, why do you think when you find gay couples who adopt, one will always adopt a more masculine role and the other one a more feminine role?
That's exactly why, though.
It's because it's innate to human beings. We understand the necessity for it.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like even gay folk get this shit, right? Because it's so innate to human physiology and psychology. It's built in. This is why tabula rasa is a piss poor idea for human psychological evolution. It's like we know that there are things that are pre-programmed into our brains. So it's a fascinating topic. I read a lot, if you can't tell.
Oh, same here, guy. The other thing is biology doesn't lie. Men biologically, both muscularly and chemically and everything, are different than women.
Yeah.
Without intervening in that medically, that's just the way it is. You know, bar something being wrong, boys will be boys and girls will be girls. It's just the way it is. And boys will tend to be more aggressive. And I'm not saying that with a broad brush, that there isn't women who can't be aggressive. But generally, they're not doing it out from the same standpoint as a male would.
Well, if you took the weird thing about aggression is it manifests differently amongst women and men.
Yes.
So if you were to take one woman and one man out of a random group of people and said which one is going to be more aggressive, if you picked a woman, you'd be right 40% of the time.
Yep.
That's still damn near close to half.
But
it's just the aggression shows differently.
Yeah. And the reasoning would be different.
It's possible. I don't want to speculate on that, but it's fairly possible. The study didn't really go into why, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've read it, but they test aggression slightly differently than I was expecting, but it was still valid.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with that.
It was a really interesting study. Here's the interesting study that you should really read is opposite molecular structures in men and women with major depressive disorders. And why that one is significant is because what they found was that children who had more, oh good God, what is with me and words today, Coach? When there was more in girls, when there was more testosterone in vitro, their brains tended to be more masculinized, and
Yes.
exactly the same for boys who had an overabundance of estrogen. Their brains became more feminized. Now, this is a really interesting fact when you take into consider homosexuality and transgenderism.
Yes.
It definitely makes a very good argument for the fact that these people feel like they're in the wrong body. However, there's
It doesn't
other interesting
change
facts
reality.
that go. Well, it doesn't change biology, absolutely not. And most trans folk, and I've spoken on this because I'm a trans supporter, but most trans folk that I speak to, they're like, yeah, we're really well aware of our biology. That's why dysphoria exists. It's only the very loud activists that refuse to understand and cope with this problem. So most trans people, if you were to meet a random trans person and be like, hey, blah 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 blah, they'd be like, oh yeah, I know I'm fucking I'm not this person that you see. They're very well aware of it. They're actually, most of them are very reasonable, as long as you're respectful. But it is an interesting topic to dive down. But the interesting thing about that is that explains why some men seem more feminine and some women seem more masculine. It's a fascinating study that I would highly recommend.
Well, you're always going to have a mix when it comes to that type of stuff, just by sheer chance.
Yeah, I mean, the distribution is so close.
The other thing, though, is I think a lot of what we're having today, though, is generated by society. I'm of the mind, and I have no scientific proof for this, but I look at trends and what was going on industrial wise. But it's like the advent of ADD and ADHD. Well, what come about when that become prolific? Plastic everything.
Plastic everything, internet, cell phones, much more of that stuff. Yeah. Helicopter parents.
Yeah. And it's like our society has changed so much with the advent of things that were supposed to make our lives better. But have they really? And now we're finding out that, well, yeah, a lot of these stuffs in this stuff is imitating hormones, causing problems. You know, it's like when I grew up with my cousin stuff, we were very, very hyper males.
Right. Everybody was combating to see who the alpha male of the group was. Always, constantly.
We had the extra dose of testosterone. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And you know, it was never a problem going to school or doing other things or things like that because we were raised to do those things. But now, when young males act up in school and are rambunctious and a little bit hyper, they want to stick them on drugs to turn them into a zombie.
Yeah,
I don't agree with that.
Right there with you.
You know, that is not, and I think that has a lot to do with what we're seeing with the ideas being brought about in society.
I want to roll this out to you fellas. I'm going to play two things for you. Here you go.
Your identity is encapsulated into those men. Sometimes we want to get it from our biological, but they're not ready.
Because they weren't fathered and they can't give you what they don't have.
Gentleman is basically saying that a man cannot give you what he doesn't have, meaning men are often having identity crisis because they weren't fathered in the first place. and a
Yeah.
man cannot give you what they don't have. So to that, I want to say this. Many comments are made about the Black community and fatherlessness.
I knew
But,
you were going there. I got something to say on that. I
well,
love
you know
this.
what? I knew
We're
you
going
would.
down the same road.
Yeah, you know where I stand with it. I told you earlier, like I really believe that men should raise their daughters and women should raise their sons.
Right.
Because men and women, we don't know. We constantly play a guessing game when it comes to women, and y'all it's the same thing with you guys. Y'all women, y'all play a guessing game when it comes to us. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like a woman can show their her son like you know what I'm saying? Like different ways, like how a man should be.
Oh, I'm going to twist your brain too, Raw. I'm going to totally twist your brain on this one because I got some facts that are just going to blow you away.
Go ahead.
So, are you ready for this shit?
Yeah, man. I'm ready.
Well, I just want to say this. Does
Yeah.
one of your facts include how active Black men are in the family role? Does it include that one?
Can I include what? I'm sorry.
No, does it include that one? How I think it was the CDC, or it might have been another government organization that did a study on, participation in the home by fathers and Black
There's
men.
numerous ones. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anyway, go ahead and use your statistics. Go ahead.
Okay, so here's the part that's going to twist your brain. So children react really, really well to their mothers only up until puberty. After puberty, men rule.
You know what?
In every aspect.
100% on that. Okay, bam. Go ahead.
That's because it was like that.
Yeah. So if a father is in the home, especially through puberty, it decreases the likelihood of childhood sex abuse, child criminality, adolescent criminality. It's one of the best predictors for whether or not that child will end up in prison or homeless. Self-control. So what happens is that until adolescence, mothers are really, really good at helping children connect with their emotions. And then during adolescence, men are really good at helping them regulate them. So it's actually better if both gendered children are with their father more often after adolescence. Now here's the problem that you find, and I don't know where you're from, and I'm not going to assume, but here's the thing that I'm concerned about. When women complain about the type of men that they're getting, look at the parents.
Yep.
If there was no father involved, you have no one else to complain to other than their mother, because they're the ones that raised them.
Right.
Wait.
Because single motherhood is a serious problem right now because the government likes to subsidize fathers out of the home. So if we're talking about the quality of man that is being raised, women, as wonderful as they are, as hard as they're working to do the job, there's just something that men do better in regards to raising good men.
Correct.
So if they're complaining about the quality of man that they're getting, they don't get to complain.
It's something that men do better about raising good adults after adolescence.
I'm sorry, you broke up just a little bit, Coach.
Wouldn't we say that there is something about the way that men raise children after adolescence, not just men, children?
Right. There's cases of less depression, cases of less suicidal ideation. Children are diagnosed with much less frequency of psychological disorders when the father is in the home. They do better on test scores, reading, college application. Most college applicants are from father homes. Literally every single metric that you can possibly measure by, if the father is included in the child's life, especially from adolescence forward, they just kill everything.
Mm-hmm.
And by juxtaposition, When the father isn't present, everything goes to shit. I mean, 80, I think it was like 80, it was like 80, 85% of homeless youths are from fatherless homes. In prisons, men who were assessed out of raping out of anger, 80% of those were from fatherless homes. There is at no point in time when you can't give me a statistic where I can't tell you if the father was present or not, or that there's not a single statistic you can give me that I can't tell you for 100% surety whether the outcome was positive or negative and whether the father was present or not. I guarantee if it's positive, the father was present. Every single one.
Question.
And that's crazy because that doesn't come with a race tag either. Like that's everybody.
No, there's no race tag.
Right. So when there's an effort to take black fathers out of the home, what do you think the result's going to be?
Right.
Yes.
It's a guaranteed prison sentence every time.
So my question is this.
Yeah.
What is it that women need to learn? Like, if I was to say men need to learn to be good nurturers for children that are small, what is it that women need to learn to be? So I heard you use the term regulators. What is it that women need to learn to be so that they can get better outcomes in adolescence?
Find an uncle.
Yeah, a good one.
Find a mentor.
or a good
Something.
role
Did you say an ugly one?
A good one.
A good one.
Pose a question to you, Coach.
Okay, but
It seems to me.
qualities? You can't just what qualities? What qualities? You know, because if
Honor,
men
integrity.
can learn to be good, okay.
Honor, integrity, sensitivity, presence, and connection.
I'll probably throw like mission in there too, like let the man, like not just bowing down to the man, but just let the man be the man of the house.
Right. There was a story a while ago. This woman was chastising her husband because he was being too harsh on the children. And I think it was actually Steve Harvey that brought this up. I think this was actually in one of Steve Harvey's radio shows. And he says, "You love this man, right?" And she's like, "Yes, I love him very much. He's a good man." And he said, "Well, get the fuck out of his way." You love that man. He's the one that is passing on what he's learned. He's creating the kind of man that your daughter should hope to date, the kind of man that your son should hope to grow up to be. Leave him alone. Let him do his job.
Well,
I was blown away because I don't agree with everything Steve Harvey says, but I was blown away by that one.
Well, and
It
I
was
want to
damn
pose one
true.
question to Coach, and you other two here. I'd like your opinion on this. It seems to me like you're looking for an answer, or you're looking for a question to pose to an answer, which your answer already is: why can't men be more emotional? You're
No.
looking for that question.
I don't think that men can't be more emotional. As a matter of fact, I would say men are emotional already. I don't think men lack emotion. I think men.
What I'm asking is, by the very nature of the conversation we had earlier, what is it that you think men should change about being men then?
Who said?
Because obviously,
No. I don't think men should necessarily change as a broad brush.
Oh no, I definitely want to answer that one when you're done.
As a broad brush, I don't think men should change anything about being men. I do think that the societal expectation strips men from their ability to express themselves in a safe manner without getting a derogatory label.
I'm a little bit. The jury is out in my head on that one, but I know what you're talking about.
Right.
So
I'll try to be more clear.
No. You couldn't be more clear. It's a matter of I haven't decided how I feel about that question yet.
Oh, okay. You answered the question he asked me.
Okay. So the biggest thing that a man can do to be a better role model, connection. And what I mean by that is like when my son comes in, or my son's sitting here and we're doing homework together, and he starts getting an attitude, and I start pushing him, right, and he starts flipping out. And what I need to realize is I need to kind of dig deep back into my own childhood, and I need to be like, he's pissed off. Let's address that. Hey,
Right.
Are you pissed off? You feel pissed off, don't you? Let's talk about that. Why do you feel pissed off? You connect with them, right? Because they just see dad and mom, right? They don't see human being. They're
Right.
not, they don't see that. That's not built in yet. Until they have their own children, they will not see you as anything other than mother and father, right? So the best thing you can do is create an emotional connection with that child, because that emotional connection becomes a bond, and that bond becomes solid.
So do
And
you
then he can talk to you about anything.
people, parents, period.
Well, I think parents should do that, period. Yeah.
Yes.
But fathers specifically, because fathers are the emotional regulation. And part of that is acknowledging that you are pissed off. But to help boys specifically control their aggression, you first have to identify that they are aggressive. So when they're getting aggressive, you have to stop. You have to identify and acknowledge that aggression and be like, okay, you're pissed off. Here's what you do. Take 3 deep breaths. Take another 3 deep breaths and let me know when you're calmed down. Shut your laptop, close your book, whatever you got to do. Chill out. Go for a walk. Go for a walk, dude. As a matter of fact, hey, here's a better idea. Let's go throw a ball around.
Yep.
Get them off being pissed off.
And I think
Strangely
that's part
enough,
of the problem too. Not enough
You gotta
physical
do that.
activity
You gotta
nowadays.
catch that and do that the first time it happened. Like you can't let it slide no amount of time.
absolutely.
Because if you let it slide, then it'll become like we was talking about earlier with the muscle memory, and that's
Yep.
all they know, and it'll be hard to break them then. So
Well, you figure the brain's the biggest muscle. That's a lot of muscle memory.
right.
You got to break that muscle memory. You got to keep that flexible. You got to keep it stretched out. You know what I mean? So you're absolutely 100% on point.
Yeah, I just got into this book. It's called Breaking the Habits of Being Yourself. You know what I'm saying?
I know
That's
that book. Yeah.
that's a deep book. Like I never knew, I never thought that the
Yeah,
human
self-assessment, the mother.
we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts that come through our mind every day, and it's like, what are we thinking about? And half the time, it's mind-boggling when you think about it, because out of those 60 to 70 thoughts that come through your mind every day, half of them or more than half is like the same thoughts over and over and over and over and over. You know what I'm saying? Like I just feel like we got to open up our kids' minds. We got to teach them this stuff at a young age so they can tap in and be their true self, who they are.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because if you
This is
keep
kinda-
doing the same thing over and over, you're gonna get the same results.
Right.
So you have to put different thoughts in their head, and I don't know, I guess be adventurous with them.
Right. Well, or you think about it, our main job as parents is to make better humans than ourselves.
Right.
Absolutely.
How do you do that if you weren't given the tools? Well, you got to go search for those tools. You got to read. So I'm glad that you're reading. You do it by being introspective and being honest and humble with yourself, and admitting when you fuck up. Like when I mess up with my son. Sorry for cussing, Coach. I am 2 glasses into some scotch, but
Now, I'm gonna
you
look you up, bro. I gotta send me his link too, Coach. Like I'm gonna check him out.
yeah.
I got that.
You think about it. It's oh shit! I forgot where I was going. Oh, that bloody scotch.
When you screw up.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, when you screw up, you got to apologize to your son, your daughter. You got to own that shit and be like, "I'm sorry, I did that. Wasn't right." Right, because that's something that they're going to look for in their partner. And if they don't see that in their partner, they should know that that's a red flag. Because if a partner can never apologize for a mistake, what happens when they beat them? You You get what I'm saying?
Well,
Like you want to cut that off real quick. You want to give them the knowledge and information to move forward in a safe and productive manner. And you can't allow yourself to fail as a parent like that. Honor and integrity and humility.
Yep, you have to own your own actions.
Training, man. It's almost like a basic training of life. Like we gotta
Damn right, yeah.
by example, man. Like, cause they watching us coming up, they see everything we do, so we just gotta lead by example, man. So,
well,
like we
so
gotta train ourselves so they can learn off of us. Like we can train them.
Two things you should do, in my opinion. One is read Jocko Willink's book, Extreme Ownership. Two, teach your children logical fallacies. That sounds funny, but it's true.
Yes.
Because logical fallacies help our children break down arguments to determine whether they're either being manipulated or the argument is false.
Correct.
Logical fallacies. Nobody freaking believes me when I tell them this, especially, on Charles's channel. Nobody ever believes me. It's like, learn your fallacies and you will get screwed over significantly less.
Oh,
You'll be able to see the flaws in arguments. You'll be able to tell when someone's trying to pull one over on you. The logical fallacies are the most valuable tool you will ever teach your children.
And the most used one by our governments.
Oh, yeah. Straw man, appeal to emotion. Every politician, every single one.
Hey, Coach, can I go off in left field for just a minute with this guy?
Okay, go ahead. Next.
I want to play a logic game with him.
Okay.
Oh, hit me with it. I love thought problems.
Oh, absolutely. But it's not really a thought problem, more as it is a social. We have, and you're going to recognize this as we go through, we have the general of a nuclear bomber base claim that they shot down an alien spacecraft, announces it to the world, right? Only to rescind it the next day and claim it was a weather balloon. Then, as the story changes, it comes about, well, it was a weather balloon with crash test dummies and this and that, which didn't happen until 10 years after the fact. And then they show pictures of all this and the guys and rehashing it. The third option I'm going to pose to you is one that I read about in places that most people don't get to, is that our own government was sending up orphaned and disabled children on a gantry attached to balloons into the stratosphere, doing science to check to see what low pressure atmosphere would do to the human body because they wanted to send astronauts into space on rockets. But that's never bandied about as an option. Which one do you think is true?
Neither.
I was thinking the same thing.
You can apply Occam's razor to that. That which is most simplest tends to be the most true, and the thing that tends to be the most true is the easiest and most simplest explanation, which is it was a weather balloon.
You think
there's much less thought required for it. There's much less mental gymnastics required for it.
How do you explain the whole thing with the bodies and the little people and the expanded heads? The large heads,
I haven't seen those photos. So I would have to go see. This is the thing about critical thinking. You're not always aware of all the facts. You don't have the facts in your possession. So I have to go based off of that.
At this point in time, assume those to be facts, because
then I would say the latter.
Doctors.
I would say the latter.
And the reason I say that is you can do a simple Google search where government feeds orphans radioactive oatmeal. And that happened in the 40s and didn't get settled till the 90s when most of them had died after the fact.
Well, I mean, we did have the Tuskegee experiment.
We've had many other things that were just as atrocious, if not more so.
The government is known for doing messed up stuff, especially to those who are, how would you say, in disparaging positions.
Yeah, those of low moral too.
Right.
But the point I was trying to make was what you were getting about teaching logical fallacies. Okay. And understanding how to spot lies.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just intuitive, especially if you've grown up in the kingdom of lies, as such I did.
Yeah.
So
well, affirming the consequent is the one that, you know, Ra and myself figured out, which was, you know, neither one of them is true. And the reason why is because if you walk into a dark room, right, you know there's a lamp in there. If you were to say, well, the power went out, you would be assuming the consequent. The power might be on. It might just be that the lamp is unplugged or the lamp has a burnt out light bulb. You don't know any of those things, but to assume that there's an answer without having even a remote number of facts in your possession.
Well, the reason I'm going off that is because some of them facts I do know.
Okay.
So, and that's why I pose that question to people. If you were given those two options, which would make more sense? That you're going to have, you tell me.
Any of the information that you do know, that would be helpful.
Unfortunately, the reporter that put it out is no longer around, and anything that she put out has been scrubbed from everywhere.
Right, but you said you know it.
Yes, because I read it.
Okay, can you share what you read though?
That she had come across one of the nurses that had treated these children during these experiments, and she admitted that that's what they were doing. So,
well, that can be considered subjective experience, because she might be assuming that 1 + 2 = 3, but really the equation is 4 + 7. You know what I mean? She's perceiving something that is happening, right? So what you've got is you've got a data problem. That's where I would presume to start at the very beginning.
If I'm going to use past practices of our governments.
Oh yeah, no. If you're going down that line, I would say that absolutely the latter would be much more probable.
Well, and this is what I was getting at: is that
we know the government does messed up things all the time.
You have to ask yourself this one question: what would drive a general? And this is why I don't believe in the balloon thing. What would drive a general to announce to the world? You're talking the general over nuclear bombers. This guy is not a moron.
Right.
To announce to the world that they shot down an alien spacecraft. What would be so important that they needed to cover up for him to state that?
I don't know.
Do you see what I'm getting at? When
smart people do dumb shit sometimes.
Yeah, but they don't do dumb. I've been in the military. They don't do dumb shit like that.
You never met brass that did stupid shit.
Oh, I absolutely did, but not on that scale.
I think I can figure. I think they probably did that to cause confusion because they probably didn't shoot him down. They probably
no. Why would they do that over a weather balloon?
It's probably something bigger. They probably didn't shoot him down. They probably welcomed him in and had a conversation. With these people. You know what I'm saying?
Very polite conversation. Very polite.
If you're gonna go full banana, I guess, and drink Kool-Aid for sure.
You got to think the unthought of when you come into stuff like smart people that hey, look, a smart person would know that we would think what you just said. So they'll be like, okay, to throw them off. Hey, we'll do it like this to cause confusion because, like you just said, if you think of bananas, like that's the normal thought of the human. So somebody that's smarter than all of us, they'll have us thinking like that. You feel me? Like,
well, what I'm getting at is,
but I need to know if this has anything to do with the moon landing.
No.
Look at the look on his face.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be standing there staring at the hole. Yeah, I'd be gone. See ya.
Be afraid to move.
Yeah, that's what happens to people. They freeze up in situations. I'm trying to get the hell out of there.
Check this video out. Here you go.
Mike, what are your thoughts on masculinity?
My name is Michael Tross. I am a administrator at the collegiate level for education, particularly nursing education. And these are my thoughts, really not just so much on masculinity, because when I started breaking it down, it seemed like the same thoughts I had about masculinity were the same thoughts I had about femininity, and it really came down to an idea or a framework for talking about positive humanity. So that's really the framework that I'll be talking in, and the things that I would want to tell my children and grandchildren about what it means to be a positive human being. So be confident enough to be your authentic self and follow your heart. Be uncertain enough to continue to ask questions and be willing to learn. Be courageous enough to pursue your dreams. Be afraid enough to consider the consequences of your actions. Be conscientious enough to do the right thing the right way. And be careless enough to be spontaneous and learn from your mistakes. Be selfless enough to help where you can without judging those you help. And be selfish enough to set boundaries and protect your needs and goals. Be strong enough to fight for what you believe and those you believe in, especially when they aren't popular. But be vulnerable enough to let others help you when you need it. Be open enough to consider ideas and circumstances that challenge your beliefs and understanding, but be focused enough to know what you believe, because to believe everything is to believe nothing. Empower others. Lead with kindness. Assume the best rather than the worst. Read. Do something artistic, even if you don't do it well. Maybe especially if you don't do it well. Remember that everyone makes mistakes. Forgiveness and mercy are as important as justice and accountability. Humans are incapable of objectivity. Don't assume you see the world or the situation as it really is, but do strive for better understanding. In the end, everything must be weighed against the brevity of life. Life is short. Experience it.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
I love Mike.
Me too.
I would like to point one thing out.
Go ahead.
To me, that seemed like a waddled word salad.
It made sense to me.
Oh, it made sense to me too, but it was much longer than needed to be to get the point across.
Yeah. Well,
I thought he did pretty good.
The
It's been 30 minutes long.
Yeah, the requirement by coach for those were a certain period of time. So I think he I don't want to say he embellished. I think he was more specific than most of us would be normally, but I think he got the point. I think he got the point across.
Oh yeah, he got the point across. It's just, to me, it seemed like
and man,
passion.
I'll tell you what though, he was on point during the Men's Mental Health Summit. With the blanket and the armor comment. Oh my God, he nailed that one.
Yes.
Nailed it.
Yes. And you want to, I never, ever thought about this idea that Linus's blanket was an emotional protection kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a really brilliant example. I was really impressed with his response for that one. I mean, every single one of those men came to that summit with something just absolutely profoundly amazing. I mean, you really picked some really good men. I was honored and privileged to be able to be there with you co-hosting. But Mike and the doctor were just amazing.
I'm assuming this here because I'm not familiar with what you guys are talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're speaking of Linus and a blanket, what would you think of that in real life? What would be your first thought?
I don't know the exact age of the guy. How old is Linus? How old is Linus?
I think all the kids in Peanuts were under like 10.
Yeah, they were like preteen, right in there.
So I mean, if Linus is 5 or 6, I think that's probably appropriate. it's common at that age to have a blanket. My biggest problem with the Peanuts is Lucy. I really don't like her behavior.
Is who?
Lucy, in
Oh,
setting Charlie Brown up for failure.
yeah, the mean kid.
Yeah, I really don't.
That's a matter of life. You're going to run into people like that in life.
Well, I think that's why she's in there, but I don't like it.
Well, yeah, I agree with you in that, but that's a fact of life.
Well, Charles Schultz actually admitted to the fact that he put her in there intentionally as the rude girl because men needed to be able to learn how to deal with aggressive women
Or shall we say conniving people?
or conniving. Sure, yeah. Yeah, I don't remember everything about that, but yeah. Sorry, what, Coach?
I said,
what's your thoughts on that?
I don't think so.
Care to elaborate?
What would be your first thoughts at a child carrying around a blanket for security?
Well, we all know what the response should be. Is that should have been in the dustbin of the past long ago.
To me, it would be a sign of that there's a problem that has not been addressed.
Yep.
Or there's a problem in the family structure that needs to be addressed. So,
I mean, you don't think that children get attached to inanimate objects like teddy bears?
Sure they do, but they tend not to be quite that obsessive.
Yeah, it's our job to help them get out of that phase.
Mm-hmm.
It's insecurity. That's what it is. That's why it's called a security blanket.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's up to us to teach them the security that they can go on without it.
I agree with that. I agree with that. So what would you suggest the parents to do since we're giving suggestions and advice?
Convince the child that it's time to let go.
And what's the proper age?
Be unrelenting about it.
Yeah, unless there's an underlying problem that needs to be addressed.
Yeah. What did you say, Coach?
Okay. What would you do? You said be unrelenting. How so? What is? Tell me an action that goes along with that.
You talk to them about it every time that you get the sense that they're being attached to it. So you could be playing all day long, and then you're like, "Hey, let's watch a movie," and then he goes and grabs his blanket and be like, "No. We need to leave that downstairs. This is a no blanket movie."
Yeah,
Okay.
Guaranteed that kid is going to be more happy to spend time with you than he is with that blanket, and so he'll put that blanket downstairs.
And so, what age? So, how old is too old to have an emotional support toy?
2.
Yeah, I
2
agree.
years. Okay.
That's
Fundamentally 2 years old.
Early, very early.
Yeah, very very early because statistics show that children who remain attached to an object like that past the age of 3 have serious and significant attachment problems later on. So you have to teach them very early to have to be able to discard attachments that are no longer useful.
Ooh, I like that phrase. I really like that phrase.
And that applies to a lot of different things in life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's so important to kick that early.
Relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. The funny thing is that if you actually really get down to the nuts and bolts of it, even into adulthood, we still have attachments to security. Find me a soldier that's willing to go into battle without a rifle.
Only if I had.
Find you won't find one that went in willingly.
No.
We find our attachments very differently. We see attachment as utilitarian later on in life. We see the utility of the object, and that's what we become attached to, but not the object itself. It's a very, very interesting psychological dynamic.
Well, okay, and I'll address this as one of my, shall I say, strengths and faults. Being military, I am very structured in how I view firearms.
Same here.
At
I'm a
no
concealed
point-
carry permit holder, man.
At no point in time am I more than 10 feet from one. Yeah, when I'm in bed, I'm at arm's reach in my 44 mag, you know. Yeah, exactly. And the thing of it is people would say, well, that's obsessive this, that's obsessive that. No, it's not. It's experience has taught me that you don't rely upon the mercy of another human being when they're not in a place they're supposed to be. You know, because generally, if they're there with ill intent, they ain't going to show you any mercy. So that's another hard lesson that kids
Yep.
need to be taught.
Well, it's like Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Exactly.
And that's when reality hits you like a brick. And then you realize that you just made a big, big mistake and there's no taking it back. That's the scariest part of war, is understanding that you made a mistake and you will not live through it.
Yeah, I come real close to that. Very, very close.
So do you think that your idea of being very close to a gun is kind of like a security blanket, or no?
No, it's not a security blanket at all. It's a wake up call. It's like being punched in the face to reality of society,
of life.
That's why I said you don't rely upon the mercy of an enemy.
Good example here, Coach, is like I took my son out to Applebee's to celebrate him doing a really good job, getting better grades. And we sat down, we ordered our food, and we were waiting for our appetizer to arrive. And I said, okay, I said to my son, I said, okay, son, where's the exits? And he had to think for a second, and I'm like, too late. There's one door in the front, one door in the back, one door in the side. And then you've got all the windows. Where did we park? We parked in easily get to position where we could egress quickly. These are things that we should be teaching our children in the first place. It's not for any other reason than you need to get them comfortable with bad situations and the preparedness that requires it, or that is required of it. You can't allow your children to fail because you weren't a good enough parent to prepare them.
Steve, did you sit with your back towards the door ever?
Every single time, as far as away from the front door as I possibly can, with my back towards the only wall that I know I can't get at, that nobody can get at me at. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know a military service member that does not do that. They will always sit.
An example of that video she played, where that stuff fell and that guy just stood there and all. I would not have been standing there and all. I would have been getting the hell out of there, because you don't know what's going to happen next.
Right. Just because it stopped at your feet.
Reactionary is not a good thing. Proactive is what you want to be.
100% agree. There was I'm not going to get into it today.
Go ahead.
Oh, I could tell you some stories that will get a good giggle just from the mere fact of my military training. I was laying in bed with the wife, and I have a big lab. He's 110 pounds, big baby. And he usually lays beside the bed. And I don't sleep worth a damn because of some health issues and PTSD. I have really wicked bad dreams. And I'm half awake in bed, and I hear a thud that sounds like it comes from my front room. And I look down, and the lab is laying beside the bed. And I'm like, well, it's not the lab. It's not Dozer. And then I hear another one. And I'm trying to wake the wife up as gently as I can, because now I'm of the mind that somebody's in my house. And she's like, let's put it this way. The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs would not wake her up. Seriously.
My wife's the exact opposite.
And it takes her at least 10 minutes to figure out which way is up. So I'm trying to wake her up, get her coherent, because I am of the mind now that there's somebody in my house. And at this point in time, I've already got the 44 in hand. and I'm trying to wake her up, and finally I get it through her. Hey, I think someone's in the house. You know, I intuitively, my dog goes out because Dozer, even though he's a friendly dog, he may point me in the direction of somebody being in there, but I can't take that for granted because he is a friendly dog. So now you've got a 300-pound, 6'4" Sasquatch, buck ass naked, doing a CQB of his house, you know, which had to be hilarious. I'm just glad the wife didn't have the phone.
Oh, I'll tell you the story about my camping trip here in a second.
So anyways, I clear the whole house. I didn't find anything. And trust me, I was fully prepared to end somebody if I'd found them at my house. They better have a big damn excuse quick. Well, go back to bed. Nothing more that night. Didn't hear anything. And it was still bugging me. I go to let the dog out in the morning. And I look down at this basket my wife had set on the porch. And it's empty. And I says, what did you set this on the porch for? It's empty. She says, well, I had pop bottles in it. And now, mind you, I live in the middle of Bufu nowhere in the woods. Okay. And I'm thinking to myself, is $5 worth of pop bottles worth your life? When if you'd have walked up to my door in my daytime, I'd have given them to you.
Mm.
You know, but that's one of the funnier stories that my wife never gets over that. She says, I have never seen you move like that naked.
But she finally woke up.
Yeah, that woke her up for sure.
I bet it did. Coach, did I tell you the story about my camping trip?
No.
Oh shit. Well, as per usual, I go on a yearly vacation every year up into the mountains in Wyoming and in Idaho. And this year we went to a different place. I don't know why my family chose to, but they went to a campground. We boondock. We don't camp in campgrounds, so I don't know why they did this. So we're gone for 15 days. And the very first night, I feel someone trying to break into my trailer at 2 o'clock in the morning because we got a 32-foot bumper pull trailer, and I can hear the door trying to open. And my son was sleeping outside, so I thought, oh, it's just my son. He's trying to get in the door because it's cold or something because we're pretty high altitude. Just in case, I grab my sidearm and go to open the door. Nothing's there. I go to look out. My son's still in the tent, and so I'm freaking out. Do a real quick surveillance of the area, thinking, maybe I was, just because I was half asleep, maybe I just imagined it. So I stay up for a little while, just make sure I can't hear anything. And then I finally go back to sleep, tell my family about it the next day. Well, the next night, nothing happens. So I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe I was just crazy. Now when I go camping, I bring everything. I've got both my sidearms. I've got my my short barrel AR-15 SBR bolt action SBR, and with a ACOG optic on it. And so Friday night comes around, and I feel someone. This is right after I go to sleep, turn all the lights out, laying down, not even remotely even asleep yet, and I feel someone. I feel the weight of someone, and I can hear the boots on the metal stairs. I feel the whole trailer kind of just shift just a little bit. And on our slider on that side, there's a window, and he's trying. I can imagine in my head he's trying to look in the window, seeing what's in there. So I grab my AR this time, and I rush out. Swinging dick and everything, just completely nude. And I go hunting real quick. I would try to find this guy. Can't find him anywhere. Look in. My son is still in his tent. So I woke him up real quick. I said, "Get your ass in the trailer." And he was bickering and fighting with me. And I went off on him. I was like, "Get your ass in that trailer right now. I will not ask you again." So he got in there, and I walked around for a minute trying to find whatever I could. Couldn't find anything. And I realized at this point I am at a disadvantage. So what I do is I lock up everything real tight, make sure everything's locked away, and I go back inside, stay up for a couple hours, and finally go to sleep when I realize nothing's coming back. Now, the next day, I tell my family, look, if this happens again, we're out. We're leaving. So my brother-in-law had a trail cam and set the trail cam up in a horrible place. And my father-in-law's trailer was, the door to his trailer was just slightly behind my trailer. And sure enough, you know, I'm out having a cigar, my favorite cigar. I've waited 2 years to smoke a cigar. I've got my bourbon. I am having a great time, relaxed, you know, trying to relax. And my father-in-law comes over and says, "Hey, that just happened to me. Someone just tried to break into my trailer." And so we go over to the trail cam, and sure enough, it did catch a picture of something, but we couldn't tell. And that's when I got the first clue. This dude's wearing night vision goggles. Because if you look through night vision goggles at an IR camera, it lights up like a Christmas tree.
Yep.
You see it. It's impossible to miss. So he saw it backed away just in time, but it took the picture and missed him. So I knew this guy had IR goggles. So this commotion is all going on. And this guy from a lower campground comes up and is like, "Hey, what's going on?" Tell him the story. And he's like, "Well, you feel like making rounds?" And I was like, "I feel like staying up all night." And he's like, "So do I." So this guy I'd never met in my life. Yeah, I've never met this guy in my life. Second Amendment friendly, had a beautiful 300 blackout suppressed AR-15. I mean, a kitted out Glock, a competition Glock, just a beautiful, beautiful sidearm. We proceeded, he'd never served in the military, but it was Second Amendment friendly. And so we proceeded to do perimeter checks for the next, I think it was about 4 hours. I was teaching them how to walk quietly in the forest and teaching them a bunch of tricks from back in my day. And finally, you know, we didn't see anything. And we had hit the bottle a couple of times just to relax and stay warm. And so we nestled into some really, really thick, 3 foot deep, you know, grass across the dirt road from my trailer. And we just nestled down underneath this pine tree, and we're just waiting and listening. By now, this guy has pissed me off. I'm pissed off. And about half an hour later, because we're listening, and I'm giving him hand signals. I'm like, I hear something over here. I can literally listen to this dude walking through the forest, and it's a big loop. And I know for a fact that there's a girl camping by herself down the road in a tent. And all of a sudden I see a very dim flashlight turn on over in her campground, and I'm watching it, and I point it out to him. And so I give him, you know, I tell him what to do. I tell him, go around the side of my camper, make sure that he doesn't come around the side. I'll make sure he doesn't come around the front. And I said, whatever you do, don't shoot at anything where you know people are, and don't shoot the guy in the back, because that's going to be really hard to explain unless he's armed, and then, you know, fire away.
All bets are off.
Yeah, all bets are off. So I'm walking dead quiet. I got the right boots on for the job. I'm doing a really good job, because that's what I was trained to do. So I get within about 30 feet of this guy, and he finally sees me and just books it. And unfortunately, I don't have any night vision goggles, so I would be firing blind, which I can't do. You know, I'm in a campground. So I yell for this guy. I'm like, "Hey, meet me down at the corner." So we rush to the corner and just book it towards where we think the guy's coming out. Now this guy's running through a forest, over trees, over stumps, through a field. We know this guy can see where he's going. He's not using a flashlight. So he gets down to his truck, starts his truck, and drives off. And this guy had parked his truck so that he could egress easily without anybody knowing. All the lights, all the headlights were killed. The interior lights were killed. The cluster lights were killed. Everything was dead. You couldn't see this guy. The car could start and he could drive off. So we're running after this guy, and I see him, and I draw a bead on him, and I'm just about to pull a trigger, and I decided not to at the very last second.
Smart move.
Smart move.
Yeah. You'd have
But
had a
I'll
hard
tell
time
you what,
explaining that one.
I would have if I got caught.
Well, yes.
But
There
I
was
was
that.
not willing to take that risk. I think he was scared enough. Because if he was wearing goggles, he knew what we were carrying, and he was not prepared. I had a beat on him, and I can shoot iron sights well out to 300.
Oh yeah.
And I had my optic on. I mean, I was a skilled marksman. You might not. Well, you definitely don't know this. But so I'm ambidextrous and ambioptic. So I don't have a dominant eye and I don't have a dominant hand. So I can shoot extremely proficiently with both hands. Like I qualled 40 out of 40 on one hand, 39 out of 40 on the other. So you can imagine they loved me. But so I draw on this guy, and I can see his head in my optic, and I knew I got a beat on him. I knew I would drop him, but I decided to lay off the finger or off the trigger and let him go. But that was the first time in a very long time where I was excited and happy to end a life. It was very weird to feel that again.
Yeah, I would have been reassessing myself right quick.
Yeah, and I did. And I told my wife about it, and I told a couple of friends about it. I talked to my therapist about it. And it was concerning enough that I was like, this feeling that I'm feeling right now is not right. And so I dealt with it and got in touch with it. But it was interesting because I have not felt that level of excitement for a long time. I mean, there was no excitement better than what I felt that
was
night.
the reason I left the military and didn't stay in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, no, seriously.
No, I'm not criticizing. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Beginning to like it.
Yeah.
And that scared me.
Yeah. That's usually when most good people get out.
Yeah. I was like, no more of this.
Yeah.
And they offered me a boatload of money to stay in too. So it's like, no.
Yeah. Well, and after this night happened, I mean, after this all happened, I should say, me and the guy walked back and I'm not even going to tell you about the culvert, but we walked back. We took a couple more shots of some whiskey, and I finally went back to my trailer. I said, "Hey, man, you ought to get some sleep. I'll watch your tent for you." Because he had his old lady and a dog with him, and I said, I'm going to be up. I don't sleep anyways. I'm an insomniac, so I'm going to stay up. I'll watch both of our places, and his place was just on the other side of my trailer. And so I went to another tree, to the actual tree that the camera was in, because I knew that the camera would blind his view of me if he came back.
Okay.
So I nestled
Can't
under
be
this
that stupid, I wouldn't think.
No, he wasn't that stupid. But I nestled up underneath that tree, and I stayed there for another 3.5 hours. Until my father-in-law woke up and came out, and shit, he couldn't even see where I was. So, but I started talking to him, and he was like, "Where the fuck are you, man?" I'm like, "Right here." Started talking to him, and my wife woke up and heard us talking. But I think, the interesting fact about that was, I think that was the first time that my wife really understood the level of dedication I had to their safety and realized the level of sacrifice I had for my family. And it changed our relationship for the better.
Well,
That's a heck of a story.
Yeah. I was 5 days into a 15 vacation, still pissed off. It was really hard for me to calm down after that.
Wow.
I don't know. When I come back up, I spent 3 months on the couch because I didn't dare sleep in the same room with my wife.
Yeah. You don't know what you're going to do.
Well, I woke up in the middle of the night wanting to choke her.
Oh my God.
And I didn't know it was her. I literally was dreaming about a different situation.
You know that. I know that both of you men told me stories in which you guys were naked.
Well, you can't take the military out, and we just don't get dressed. When you got to deal with the situation, you deal with it.
Yep.
So,
My wife's
I mean, it's a
always
good
hilarious
distraction.
after
It's
the
a good
fact.
distraction.
But I'll tell you this: when it was going on,
uh,
she knew I was deadly serious because she was scared to death that I was going to find somebody and that she was going to view all this.
no, the Naked Killers. That's what I'm going to change the name to this stream as. It. The
No,
Naked-
you gotta change it to swinging dick.
yeah, something like that. How about that? How about that?
The swinging vets. How's that? I'd be much more happy with that than I would anything that has the word killer in it.
Okay. Hey, I'm very flexible. And then the other thing, Steve, when you were telling your story, if this was like a horror movie, it would start off in the way, but then that guy that was acting as if he didn't know what he was doing, he would actually be the guy that was rattling the doors. You know, and you would end up getting kidnapped, stripped down in some room, and you'd be like naked in the chair, all locked up, and then you'd do like a Bruce Willis and then capture the guy. That'd be pretty good, right?
Capture wouldn't be my goal.
Okay, capture, kill.
Yeah. Yeah.
But hey, I'm just making this my movie mindset. That's where my movie mindset went.
I don't like you know me, Coach. I don't like talking about my service history.
Right. I really wasn't referring to your service history. I was just referring to the incident you just talked
Yeah.
about.
Yep.
Well, that's the point that I tried to make with that, though, is that I think a lot of women don't realize what men are willing to do for their families. Like you hear them talk about it, you hear them say, "Well, I know my husband will protect me," but it's like very few get the opportunity to really see what that looks like, and even fewer understand the psychological weight of that decision that we're going to have to live with for the rest of our lives. And you know that because you had what's his name on one of your shows.
Which what's his name? I got a lot of what's his names.
The son of the father who killed his son's molester.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, that would be a tough one.
Yeah.
Because
no matter what, you still ended the life.
Well, but see, I'm kind of the mind that
I want to ask you guys that either of you guys have seen the episode when I had the female vets on.
No, I did not.
Of course I did.
Okay. And they talked about their, I don't know, instinct to kill and their mindset from being in war that way.
Yeah. It tends to mess up women a lot more than it does men, though. There's plenty of statistics to back that up.
It could
they're both never functional the same way, but women even more so.
You know, I think that anytime you become a killer, it'll change you. Yeah.
I don't see how it couldn't. Unless you're a socio or psychopath. I mean, even a psychopath would probably feel some guilt, but a sociopath wouldn't.
No.
You know, there definitely been female serial killers for sure.
Oh, yes, but they're not as prevalent as males.
Yeah, it's like a 200% difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's be clear. Serial killers are a very particular type. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But generally, women will have an accomplice, whereas males will not.
Okay. But I wonder, this is what I wonder though. I wonder if female serial killers don't get caught as often as male serial killers.
I guarantee they don't get caught as often.
Yeah, I have to agree on that.
So maybe there's just as many female serial
No.
or a lot more female serial killers than what you think.
I bet there's not as many serial killers a female, but I will guarantee you there's many females who have murdered that have not been caught.
Well, I mean, Black widows are serial killers. These girls that are going out and stabbing, having these stabbing parties. I think that's being a serial killer.
Well, if they're having stabbing parties, yeah, we need to shut that shit down like right now. I will say this though, Coach, when you talk about how it changes a person, when I first got out and come back home, I was contacted by a friend of a friend who was a police officer. And being that I'm a rather large guy, and he was a bail recovery agent as well. And he wanted me to come help him do bail recovery. I'm like, well, sure, no problem, because of, he says, you're military trained. He says, I know you're disciplined and all this stuff. It's just, I just need to teach you a few things and the laws and all that stuff. And I went along and worked with him for about 6 months. And there was talk about, becoming a police officer and all this stuff. And at first I was all for it. And then it dawned on me one night, I don't know where it come out of, but it just come out of left field, that the reasons that I left the military were the very same reasons that I probably shouldn't be a police officer. And truthfully, and I'm not going to say this is the rule, but I'm of the mind that a combat vet really should not be in policing. Just for the mere fact that once that switch goes on, and that I refer to it as another animal. That's how I view myself when I'm in that mode. It's hard to shut it off because instinct kicks in then. Which, granted, I'm going to say law enforcement can be dangerous at times and dangerous situations, but the last thing I'd want to do is go into a house and clear a room and shoot everybody in there when we're only looking after one person. And that's what next day I called him up. I says, I'm done. I just, I don't wish that side of me to be out and about again.
Yeah, you're definitely wise, dude.
Well, that's why and a lot of people get pissed when I state this, when I say combat veterans should not be in police enforcement. They are a different animal.
Yeah.
You don't come out of that viewing the world the same way. And it's going to make you much more apt to end the life of somebody who maybe didn't deserve it, or could have been handled a different way.
And it depends on what your role was too.
Well, mine was pretty sticky. So,
yeah. Well, that's what I mean. If you're just a standard infantryman, it's not necessarily as bad as, say, a marksman, sniper, or someone who specializes in CQB situations.
Yeah.
Because you're up front, close, personal. You see it, you feel it, you smell it. It's much different.
I was face to face with many of the people, many enemies. This wasn't 300-yard shit. This was 3 feet shit. So, well, it's like my wife. I used to bounce at a bar local here. And she could always tell if somebody got out of line, if I was hollering at them, they're okay. She says, but just as soon as Robert starts talking to you, like I'm speaking to you now, you might want to shut up because he's about to get serious on you. So I didn't realize that until she told me that. She says, yeah, she says, as long as you're screaming at somebody, you're fine. She says, once you start talking to them, shit's about to hit the fan. And she was correct. I made Finch do it one night. You know?
Yeah. I think my wife would probably agree with you.
But, you know, and this is another thing I kind of a caveat when it comes to the military and being male. I don't regret my military service at all, but I would never wish it upon anybody. It changes you in ways that even you yourself don't know. My wife said when I come back, she says, you're mean. And I didn't think I was. And she says, no, you're mean. And it took me a while to get out of that. Like I had no buffer, you know. If I was sitting somewhere in a bar having a drink and someone looked at me cross-eyed and said something stupid, all right, well, you want to step out? No problem. If you want to be that dumb. And she was correct. I really needed to learn to defuse situations where I didn't need that animal anymore. So,
do you mind if I ask what branch you were in?
Army.
Okay.
And I'll give you a little hint. I spent 7 months at Fort Benning.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
Everything from boot camp, AIT, airborne school, RIP, Ranger, and on. So.
Yeah, no, I spent the majority of my time in South Carolina.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you weren't too far from Savannah then.
I did all three. I did all three there.
Robert, you do something else. You were something else too.
Pardon?
You were something else too, right?
Yes.
What was it?
I'm not at liberty to say that.
Oh, okay.
Let's put it this way. It was military, but not military. How's that?
Okay.
Had something to do with a couple 3-letter agencies.
Okay. That's fine.
I'm over here smiling because I know what he's talking about.
Well, if you want an idea, Coach, you can look up something that I can tell you that was in the news called the Devil's Chessboard.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well, do you gentlemen think that having females in the military is healthy for the military or unhealthy?
In a combat role, I don't think it's a bright idea at all. Absolutely not.
What was the question?
Do you think having females in the military is healthy or unhealthy?
I'm indifferent. I really am. It depends on the roles, but at the same time, the excuse that it's going to mess with men's minds on the battlefield, I think is kind of a red herring. And the reason why is because most people in those situations that I know personally, that wouldn't really faze them. So it's more, to me, it's like, if a woman wants to fight on that level and she can do all the same work, I have no problem with it. She has every right to defend her country as anybody else would.
Can I throw you some caveats on that?
Oh, absolutely. I would appreciate it.
And the reason I say that is because I also have an Op 4 badge. Okay. Now, granted, I agree with you. Anybody that wishes to defend their country should be able to do so. When they brought women into the military, and I'm going to be very blunt, they lowered the standards down across the board, which not only in turn brought in people who weren't as capable, but it also was bringing in males who were not capable. And even then, they were still having a very high washout, a recycle rate. Okay. I think as it stands now, they have to, I don't quote me on this, I'm just paraphrasing because I just read it like a few weeks ago. And then I'll compare it to when I was in, the standards I had to attain. They had to run 2 miles. I think it's in 18 minutes. And they have to be able to complete, I think it's like 45 push-ups and 45 sit-ups or something in 2 minutes. And then they have choices of other things like pull-ups and other things, which we did not have when I was in. Our PT tests were very, very strict and standard. Qualification for me was 99 push-ups and about 140 sit-ups.
Why 140?
Because the stronger your core is, the stronger you are overall. And I had to be able to run 2 miles in less than 14 minutes. Okay. They literally changed that standard from a age group of which I was when I went in was 19 to the standards of a 55-year-old. Just so they could bring women into combat arms. But as I said, the caveat to that is because you couldn't have a standard for men and a standard for women. That's discriminatory. So they had to have it a standard across the board. So the side effect of that is you not only were bringing people in who were a lower standard already, but you were also bringing in lower standard males who, in my opinion, didn't make the mark. They would have never survived my boot camp, period. I unequivocally would have not made it through. Airborne school would have killed them.
Yeah.
And I won't get on to the other stuff because I know they wouldn't even made it far enough to be qualified for it. But granted, as I said, I'm all for somebody that wants to serve their country, but put them in a role where it becomes actually conducive to the mission. We shouldn't be lowering our standard. I don't care how much technology we have. We should not be lowering our standards.
So you would have been, I'm guessing by what I think your age is, you would have been mostly active during the 80s?
Yep.
Okay. So your OPFOR would have been directly
80s
would have been directly attached to the predominant powers of that time, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I know what you're talking about then.
I was active through in the 80s and then through the early 90s. So I can say I served in Panama. I ETS'd 18 hours prior to Desert Storm. And thankfully I did, because I don't know that I'd have come back.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to assume that you at least spent some time around the Eastern Bloc.
I spent time in mostly Central America.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, that was still just as rough.
You wouldn't believe. So, yeah, as I said, most of the stuff that I was up close and personal.
Yeah. For those unaware, OPFOR it stands for Oppositional Force.
Yeah, I'm trained
if you're curious.
many different aspects of warfare from many countries.
Yeah. What's still amazing to me is that we still couldn't get our dick out of our pants for real true like urban combat until at least the 90s, early 2000s. Still amazes me.
Because they weren't training the average soldier in it.
Yeah.
They still had the Vietnam era type leadership that believed in foxholes and all that bullshit.
Right. Yeah.
They went to war like it was playing a football game.
Well, the Marines were on top of it, but everybody else was lagging behind by at least 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
the training that I got after the fact was far more intense than anything I seen in basic.
Yeah.
And then schooling and everything else that I went to after the fact, you know.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
As I said, I don't regret it, but I wouldn't wish it upon anybody.
Yeah. So I would have never seen that. I was trained for long distance.
Yeah.
So non-urban long distance is specifically what I was focused on. So because my MOS was dependent upon stationary combat surrounding equipment, but my role was more of reach out and touch them before they even get close.
Yeah.
So,
well, I've done all that. I've done, you know, I had 3 MLSs before I even left Fort Benning.
yeah, I had 2. Well, actually, technically, I had 3. If you want to be real technical about it.
Yeah. No, I mean actual change in MLS.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So I mean, yeah,
it wasn't 11 Bravo when you went in, was it?
Yes, absolutely.
It was still 11 Bravo back then, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So mine was 63 Sierra when I first went in. So I started out as a heavy wheel mechanic.
That's not a job I'd want.
Yeah, no, it sucks. Like, just imagine going out into the middle of nowhere, trying to retrieve a down vehicle that has to be repaired in field.
Not knowing who's going to be shooting at you.
Well, you know who's going to be shooting at you. You just don't know when.
Yeah, well, that's my point. You're not knowing who's going to be shooting at you, from where or when or whatever.
Yeah, that was the most frightening
Truck
aspect
drivers,
of that training.
truck drivers took a lot of. Everybody thinks, you know, oh, they're just a truck driver or whatever. I tell you what, a lot of truck drivers were killed. A lot of truck drivers were killed.
Yeah.
They had a bullseye written all over them.
Big target, nice and
Well, it's
juicy.
not just that, you know, is to interrupt supplies or whatever, you know.
Well, that's what I mean. Big and juicy.
Yep.
They're prime.
With usually only 1 or 2 on board at most.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. My specialty was the Hemet, which was heavy extended mobility tactical truck.
Yeah. Big old crooked wheel bastards.
Yep. Yeah. Those were the ones that we had to go dig out in the middle of shit.
Yep. Fun stuff. Well, that's like the Humvee was supposed to be the end all be all, and I'll tell you what, they're absolute piece of shit as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I think that was proved during the first Gulf War fairly succinctly.
Their armor
not armored enough. Yeah, they're not armored enough.
And then when you do arm it enough, you're basically driving around a mini tank. You might as well put tracks on it.
Yeah,
Because
those
they
6.5s
sink in
were shit.
anything.
Yeah, those 6.5s were shit. Turbo diesel my ass. They're slower than a car on a tree's ass.
Yep. That's pretty amazing. Somebody's better idea.
Yeah. I mean, it was slightly better than the Jeep. You got to give them that.
Well, yeah, but
I mean, at least it had doors.
that it actually is an upgrade. I mean, the only thing is it's just bigger and heavier.
Yeah. Well, granted that Humvee could pull a tree
Yes.
stump out of concrete. It was a
Yeah.
strong motor, but that strong motor doesn't help you get out of Dodge when you need to real quick.
Yeah, when you have a top speed of about 45 miles an hour.
Yeah, if the civilian version's a little bit better, but yeah, the military version's about 50. And then you're screaming. But yeah.
To me, that's not getting the hell out of the area.
Yeah, that's not really not. And then you add on top of that a turret and armor, and it's even worse. I don't even know what they're rolling anymore. I don't pay attention.
Who knows? I know, to me, in my opinion, that vehicle should have been changed the very first year they brought it out.
I think they're going to the heavier ones, but I'm not sure. The mobile carriers.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell you because they're almost like tanks, man. They're just massive.
Well, the MRAPs, shit like that.
MRAP, thank you.
Using more of that kind of stuff, you know. But you know, you still got you still have the mentality of when it comes to that stuff that well, this is what we'll have, and then this is what we're assigned, and this is this and this is that. Well, okay. How about you take that and assign me a dune buggy? I'd be much happier.
Right?
At least I can do like 80 across the sand on that bitch.
Yeah. I was I got a friend who was CIA during the Cold War, and he how would you put that? He infiltrated the Red Guard and was taking the train to and from Moscow to Patevka. Yeah, he told me some interesting stories. I got his book back here. John Ramsdell. Yeah.
Well,
interesting guy.
I'll tell you what floors me. We have trucks that can do 150 miles an hour through the Baja Desert, and not break, mind you, very often. But yet, our best that we can do is a Humvee.
Mike Ramsdell, sorry, forgot. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. You could have armored one of them things up, even if it only did 80 miles an hour. You're worlds ahead. You know, they don't sink in the sand, they don't sink in the mud. When you push on the gas, they actually move.
Right. Well, I mean, the whole benefit to them is they're extremely light, so I don't know how far that would go, but
that's why I cut it down to 80 miles an hour instead of 150.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, the Duramax is a hell of a motor, and it's only 0.1 liter more, but it sure does book it a lot faster than those old 6.5s. That
well, guess what my four-door diesel is?
Yeah. My four-door diesel is a Duramax as well, but yeah, those old 6.5s, man, they had problems up the wazoo. Their computers would break, the grounds would bust. I mean, they were just piles of shit. You know, and then some of them weren't even turboed, and it was just like, man, this is like I could walk faster than this thing could go.
Yep.
You know, it's like I might as well just walk to my death. Yeah, fiberglass hood. Yeah, brilliant. But yeah, I'm gonna head to bed, Coach. I'm getting a little bit pooped.
Yeah, it's getting that kind of time for me too. I wouldn't even been here if I wasn't an insomniac.
Yeah, it's an interesting trait most of us have, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Most vets I know are insomniacs.
Yeah, I'm going to bed here. I'll probably go to bed right now. I'll probably fall asleep around 2:30, 3 o'clock. Wake up at 7. So.
Yeah, it's almost 4 o'clock where I am, and I'll probably be back up at 6.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But anyways, you have a good one. Nice meeting you. Good talking to you. Hell of a good talk.
Absolutely.
More discussion in the future.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. We'll talk to you later, Coach. Talk to you later, Guitar Man.
Take care, guy.
Night, guys.
Coach, you have a good one, sweetie.
All right. You too. Bye-bye. Thank you for coming.
Oh, absolutely. No problem.
All right. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.